Jean Beibei said gloomily, but I thought that Sister Jingxian would definitely support me since she is already with cousin-in-law. I didn't expect that you wouldn't support me either. I really can't do anything on my own. Beibei, I think you better not worry about it. Menjing hasn't said anything yet, and you are already helping her to drive Yi Xiaoye away. By then, if my affair, will she send you to drive me away? Shen Jingxian was a little worried. No, she won't. I'll keep it a secret for you. Let's form the Black Leaf Alliance, Jean Beibei said. I'd better not get involved. But I will support you in other matters. If you want to be with Xiao Qin, I won't oppose it either. Shen Jingxian said. Forget about my affair. You should prioritize cousin Menjing. Sai, if Sister Jingxian wasn't cousin Menjing's best friend, I would also want to drive you away. But I don't have a choice now, Jean Beibei said. Then I have to thank you, Beibei, Shen Jingxian said with a smile. You're welcome. Anyway, I don't have the final say. When the time comes, cousin Menjing will have the final say, Jean Beibei said. Borrow some money from cousin-in-law tomorrow. Borrow money? Shen Jingxian was stunned. To buy a house, Jean Beibei said. Shen Jingxian was speechless. The two walked out of the bathroom while chatting. They dried themselves and were about to lie on the bed to rest for a while. Suddenly, Shen Jingshuan's phone rang. Shen Jingxian glanced at it and saw that it was her father, Shen Jinghao. It's so late. Why is my father looking for me? Shen Jingxian answered the phone doubtfully. Dad, are you looking for me? Jingxian, where are you? Have you rested yet? Shen Jinghao sounded a little anxious. Not yet. I'm at Menjing's place. Dad, what's wrong? Is there anything wrong? Shen Jingxian asked hurriedly. Your grandpa is critically ill. Your second great-grandfather came out of seclusion in advance. Jingmao and I are on our way back. We called you before but you didn't answer, so we left first. Make an appointment with Master White Fox and see if he can come back with you, Shen Jinghao said hurriedly. I was taking a shower just now. Maybe I didn't hear it. Shen Jingxian suddenly remembered that they were in the bathroom. The soundproofing was very good so they couldn't hear anything outside. I'll try and see if I can find him. In fact, Shen Jingxian was a little worried. Could Xiao Qin go home with her? His other identity didn't allow him to leave. How was she going to tell Xiao Qin? Okay, let's do it this way. I'll call your uncle and ask him what's going on, Shen Jinghao said and hung up the phone. Holding the phone in her hand, Shen Jingxian was a little absent-minded. Although she and Jing Mao weren't well liked in the Shen family, their grandpa was still very good to them when they were young. However, there were many outstanding children in the Shen family. When she and her brother grew up, they followed their father to Songning City and gradually lost contact with the Shen family. But now that she heard that her grandpa was critically ill, her memory suddenly floated to the time when her grandpa brought them to sit in the yard, watching the twinkling stars and telling them stories. He said that everyone was a star in the sky. When that person grew old and left, the corresponding star in the sky would dim. Now grandpa was critically ill. Could he make it? Shen Jingxian knew that her grandpa's health had been deteriorating over the years. But she didn't expect this day to come so soon. She found it hard to accept. Sister Jingxian, what's wrong? Why are you unhappy all of a sudden? Jean Beibei looked at Shen Jingxian, who was a little sad, and asked, Beibei, my grandpa is critically ill. I have to go back to the Shen family tonight? Shen Jingxian said, let's go and find Menjing. I can borrow a car from her. Grandpa Shen is critically ill? Jean Beibei was shocked. Then why don't you ask my cousin-in-law to go back with you? How can he accompany me? His identity is Xiao Qin, not White Fox. Shen Jingxian couldn't help but smile bitterly. Leave it to Beibei. Jean Beibei patted her chest and promised. Shen Jingxian was stunned. Jean Beibei had already gone out and walked to Cheng Menjing's room. She pushed the door open. Cheng Menjing was lying on the bed and playing with her tablet computer. Seeing Jean Beibei, she felt a little strange. Beibei, didn't you sleep with Jingxian? Why are you back? Hey Jingxian, you're back too? Menjing, my dad just called me. My dad is critically ill. I have to go back to the Shen family. Can you lend me a car? I have to drive back tonight. Shen Jingxian said anxiously. Cheng Menjing was stunned immediately. Jingxian, you want to drive back by yourself? It's so late. Even if it's urgent, it's not good, right? Why didn't Uncle Shen come to pick you up? I was taking a shower with Beibei just now. My phone was left outside. We chatted inside for a while, which delayed my time. My dad might not be able to contact me, so I left first, Shen Jingxian said with some distress. Now I have to go back by myself. But it's so late. It's so dangerous for you to drive back alone. Qing Minjing said worriedly. Where's White Fox? Isn't he your boyfriend? Ask him to go with you. He's out of town and can't come back for the time being. I can only ask him to go there directly, Shen Jingxian said. I'll drive slowly. Why don't you leave tomorrow morning? It's so late. You haven't run long distances before. Can you do it? Qing Minjing tried to dissuade her. I really can't, Shen Jingxian said anxiously. My grandpa was very good to me when I was young. Now he's critically ill. According to my dad, I'm afraid he can't make it this time. If I can't see him, I sigh. Qing Minjing was in a dilemma after hearing Shen Jingshuan's words. Cousin Minjing, I have a good idea, but I need your approval, Jin Beibei suddenly said. Oh? What idea needs my approval? Qing Minjing looked at Jin Beibei and asked curiously. Here's the thing. Actually, you can ask your cousin-in-law to accompany Sister Jingxian, Jin Beibei said. Don't forget that your cousin-in-law is an expert racer. Even if it's late, it's not a problem for him to drive on the highway. He is a transformer. Who can possibly run into him? That does make sense. Qing Minjing thought for a moment. It was true that Xiaoqin was a good driver and he was a man. It would not be a bad idea to ask him to accompany Shen Jingxian. However, she was somewhat worried. Jingxian, will White Fox misunderstand you if Xiaoqin goes back with you? I don't think so. Isn't he your fiancé? He is White Fox's lackey. White Fox knows him. Shen Jingxian finally understood what Jin Beibei meant. She could not help but admire her. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoqin had a legitimate reason to accompany her. Also, it would not raise Qing Minjing's suspicion. That's good. I'll talk to Xiaoqin and ask him to accompany you home. While speaking, Qing Minjing picked up her phone and dialed Xiaoqin's number. Xiaoqin returned to his room and was about to brew the medicine. He had put in all the ingredients and set the time, when he suddenly realized that one of the ingredients was missing. Chapter 446. As soon as Xiaoqin poured out the medicinal materials and repacked them, his phone rang. He was slightly stunned. It's so late. Who's calling me? Could it be that Yi Xiaoye is anxious and calls me to ask if I want to have dual cultivation with her? However, to Xiaoqin's surprise, it was Miss Qin who called. Hello Minjing, what's up? What's the matter? Xiaoqin quickly asked. Xiaoqin, are you free now? Qing Minjing asked. Yes. Xiaoqin felt a little strange, but he still said, what do you want me to do? Then come upstairs. Let's talk. Qing Minjing said and hung up the phone. Xiaoqin went upstairs in a hurry and came to Qing Minjing's room. He knocked on the door and Qing Minjing's voice came from inside. Please come in. Minjing, are you looking for me? Xiaoqin pushed the door open and entered. What he saw was Jin Beibei and Shen Jingxian in thin pajamas. Miss Qin might not have taken a bath, so she was sitting on the edge of the bed in thick pajamas. Xiaoqin's nose almost spurted blood. If Shen Jingxian hadn't touched his nose just now, he might have spurted blood now. Shen Jingshuan's beautiful hair was messy, and her body was wet with water drops. The pajamas in front of her half covered her breasts, but she didn't notice it at all. After taking a bath, she put on a silk pajamas and was about to go to bed, but she received a call. Therefore, she ran over in a hurry and didn't notice the translucent pajamas on her. Jin Beibei was even more awesome. She was only wrapped in a bath towel, not even a pajamas. Because of the pressure of the bath towel, her breasts were white, which made Xiaoqin feel dizzy. Her breasts were even bigger than Tang Tang's. Sure enough, it made sense that she often said that her breasts hurt. Who wouldn't feel pain with such a big burden on their bodies? Jingxian Beibei, your breasts. Miss Qin looked a little unnatural. She glared at Xiaoqin and threw a pillow towel on his face, stopping him from appreciating their intimate moment. Ah! Jin Beibei and Shen Jingxian realized it at the same time. Shen Jingxian blushed. Although she and Xiaoqin had sex before, she was still a little embarrassed to be seen naked in such a situation. Although Jin Beibei was bold, she couldn't stand it anymore when it came to the real thing. She quickly jumped onto the bed and crawled into Qing Minjing's quilt, only exposing her head. Then she said, Cousin-in-law, it's done. You can see it now. Xiaoqin took off the pillow towel on his head, only to hear Shen Jingshuan's voice. Hey Beibei, I'm not done yet. Why did you ask him to take it off? Jin Beibei stuck out her tongue and said, Then cousin-in-law, you can cover it again. I can just close my eyes. Xiaoqin closed his eyes, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Who could have foreseen that he would see such a scene when he went upstairs? What had he done before? It's done? Xin Jingshan said timidly. She had put on a coat quickly, which Cheng Minjing had hung on the hanger next to the door. Now, can you tell me what's going on? Don't tell me that you want me to come up and see you making a fuss. Xiao Chen murmured gloomily, although you're right, I still have to say that I'm a gentleman. Enough, Xiao Chen. Don't act like you're innocent. Cheng Minjing glared at him and said, I have something serious to tell you. I order you to accompany Jingshan back home. Back home? No. Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. Then he nodded and said, okay. Are we going back to get something? It's not the villa in Songning City. It's the Shen family in Lan City. Cheng Minjing said, is there a problem? No problem. But, why are you going so far? Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. My grandfather is critically ill. I have to rush back overnight. Xin Jingshan explained, Xiao Chen, sorry to trouble you. Oh, that's not troublesome. Xiao Chen shook his head, okay, no problem. Isn't it just being a driver? I'm a professional driver. Xiao Chen, you have to protect Jingshuan's safety. Also drive carefully. Cheng Minjing reminded, when you reach Lan City, report to us that you're safe. Okay. Then should I come back immediately, or should I bring Jingshan back after everything is over? Xiao Chen asked. It depends on the situation. Cheng Minjing said, if White Fox goes there then you can come back first. If not, you have to send her back. Or Jingshan and Uncle Shen will come back together. Okay, I understand. Xiao Chen nodded, then I'll go downstairs to prepare. Okay. It just so happened that Xin Jingshan was also going to change her clothes. Xiao Chen went downstairs. He was a little excited. Being able to return to the Shen family with goddess Shen was actually a dream of his before. It was just that the timing was not right. Now that Xin Jingshuan's grandfather was critically ill, the Shen family must be in a state of anxiety. It was not good for him to show off. After thinking about it, Xiao Chen still brought his own herbs and some of the dregs from before. He wasn't sure about the problem of Xin Jingshuan's grandfather for the time being. Maybe the dregs could be useful. As for the other things, Xiao Chen didn't need to bring them. He sent a message to Yi Xiaoye, telling her that he had something to do recently and couldn't come to her for dual cultivation. When he came back, he would look for her immediately. Although Yi Xiaoye was a little regretful, she didn't force it. After all, everyone had their own things to do. Xiao Chen went to the living room after getting ready. Xin Jingshan also came downstairs. This time, there was no need to ask Cheng Minjing to borrow a car. Xiao Chen could just drive his own car. The two looked at each other. From each other's eyes, they read a trace of a different meaning. In fact, if it was any other time, Xin Jingshan would be very happy to go home with Xiao Chen. But now she only felt anxious. They didn't stop and directly walked out of the villa. When Xiao Chen was about to get in the car, he heard Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice, wait. Xiao Chen's footsteps slightly stopped. There are devil centipede fruits in the flower bed. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. After hearing this, Xiao Chen hurriedly turned around and walked in the direction of the flower bed. This was the place where Yi Xiaoye planted plants every day. Before this, Xiao Chen really didn't pay much attention to it. After all, what kind of good medicine could be grown in a flower bed? Didn't those precious medicinal herbs grow in the deep mountains and forests that were full of heaven and earth spirit chi? However, there was a dazzling array of medicinal herbs in the flower bed. For a moment, Xiao Chen was dazzled. There were some that he didn't recognize and he didn't know which devil centipede fruit was. The third row, the second one. Elder Heaven Ancestor seemed to know what Xiao Chen was thinking and directly reminded him. Of course, he really knew what Xiao Chen was thinking. Xiao Chen looked in the direction that Elder Heaven Ancestor was pointing. Sure enough, he saw two red fruits. They looked red and tender. One look and he could tell that they were delicious. Is it this one? Xiao Chen was afraid that he would make a mistake, so he pointed at the small fruit and asked. Yes, it's this one. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. I really didn't expect that there would be devil centipede fruit here. If I hadn't casually sensed it, I really wouldn't have found it. But this is Yi Xiaoye's thing? Xiao Chen was a little hesitant. If he didn't know Yi Xiaoye or if they were enemies, then Xiao Chen would have decisively plucked it. But now, if he plucked it, would Yi Xiaoye be unhappy? Or perhaps this thing was also useful to her. If he plucked it, what would she do? However, there were two devil centipede fruits here. Xiao Chen thought that if he plucked one, there would still be one left. It should be enough for Yi Xiaoye for the time being. When he came back, he would explain to her. If it really wasn't enough, then he would cultivate it again. Thinking up to this point, Xiao Chen directly stretched out his hand and plucked the demon stalk fruit. The fruit was very beautiful, round and pleasing to the eye. Under the night sky, it glowed, making one want to swallow it with just one look. You can't eat it. After eating he. Elder Heaven Ancestor saw that Xiaochen wanted to have a taste, so he reminded him. Xiaochen was slightly stunned. Thinking of his situation just now, he suddenly felt that it was a little unbelievable. He really wanted to have a taste just now. The devil centipede fruit has a trace of magic power that can affect a person's mind. If you eat it, your whole body will be in a state of madness and fantasy. Although it won't affect you much, at least you won't be able to wake up for a while. Elder Heaven Ancestor reminded him. Then, put it in the medicinal ingredients, I'll drink it. Xiaochen was shocked. This devil centipede fruit was really strange. He was already a level 8 refinement stage cultivator, but his mind was still affected by the devil centipede fruit. This thing, it seemed, was not ordinary. That's not a problem, because after taking this medicine, it will be more painful than before. Elder Heaven Ancestor explained, you are a level 8 refinement stage cultivator. You have to prepare for foundation establishment and begin to refine your body again, so the process will be very uncomfortable. This devil centipede fruit will produce a certain amount of hallucinations which will reduce a lot of your pain. This way you can relax a lot. So that's its use. When Xiaochen heard this, he was speechless. Damn, I can endure it, I don't need this. If you don't need it, I'm afraid that you will be in so much pain that you will want to commit suicide. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, among the people I know, there are some who are useless and then commit suicide. Xiaochen was stunned and asked. And then he endured it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Are you kidding me? Xiaochen almost choked to death on his own saliva. His strength is higher than yours. He broke through from the foundation establishment stage to the golden core stage in order to become the strongest golden core stage expert. However, at that time, there was no devil centipede fruit to suppress the pain. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, but his strength is higher than yours, and his endurance is also stronger than yours. I'm afraid that you won't be able to. Forget it, no matter what, I've already got it. Xiaochen carefully picked the devil centipede fruit and put it away. After reaching the Shen family, he had to decoct the medicinal liquid as soon as possible, otherwise, it would lose its medicinal properties. Chapter 447. Xiaochen, what are you doing? Shen Jingxian got in the car and saw Xiaochen talking to himself at the flower bed. She was a little puzzled and couldn't help but call out to him. I'm coming. Xiaochen stood up and got in the car quickly. He said to Shen Jingxian, I want to see the medicinal herbs that Yi Xiaoye planted. You see, you still like her. Shen Jingxian said, such a big thing happened in my family, and you still went to see the medicinal herbs that she planted before you left. No, I stole something. Xiaochen raised the bag in his hand and said, don't tell her. Shen Jingxian was slightly stunned, then she covered her mouth and chuckled, it turns out that you stole her things. What? She won't give it to you even if you ask her for it? It's too late. Xiaochen said, let's go. After that, Xiaochen got in the car. Because of such a thing, the atmosphere instantly became a lot more relaxed. Shen Jingshuan's previously hazy mood also improved a little. It was a little cold in Songning City at night, but Shen Jingxian still opened the window and let the cold wind blow in. It was as if only the cold wind could relieve her anxious mood. Are you very hot? Xiaochen's hair stood up in the wind. I'm afraid that you're burning the midnight oil and your mind isn't clear. Shen Jingxian said, there are 3 lives in the car. You're pregnant? Xiaochen was stunned and looked at Shen Jingxian with some surprise. Didn't she say that she was on her period before? Shen Jingxian unhappily glared at Xiaochen. What I mean is, you, me, and the white fox, this isn't 3. You don't even understand a joke. It's hard for me not to think crooked. Xiaochen smiled bitterly and closed the window. I'm very awake. I don't sleep under normal circumstances. I also need to cultivate. Shen Jingxian didn't say anything more and turned to look out of the window. The buildings on both sides of the road quickly disappeared into the night. The night in Songning was very quiet, without the hustle and bustle of the sleepless city. It was serene. Of course, this was because the villa area was surrounded by high-end residences, and there was no commercial area. The car sped through the night. On the highway around the city, Xiaochen began to speed up. 100, 200, 260. The car was almost driven to the limit by Xiaochen. Shen Jingxian looked at the blurry scene outside the car window. In the darkness, she could no longer see the surrounding buildings clearly. She felt like she was riding on a high-speed train. She could only see some vague outlines and the lights of the passing vehicles. So fast. Aren't you afraid of being fined for speeding? It wasn't the first time that Xin Jingxian sat in Xiao Chen's car. She didn't have much resistance to the speed because Xiao Chen's car drove very steadily. Oh, anyway, the owner is Li Shanning. He is dead and they can't blame me, Xiao Chen said indifferently. And? Xin Jingxian nodded. Don't worry too much. It's fine as long as we can get there tomorrow morning. Are you tired? If you are tired, take a break. I'll drive. You don't have to, Xiao Chen asked. I'll help you watch the road. Xin Jingxian shook her head and still focused on the front. Although Xiao Chen's speed was very fast, the scene in front of the highway could still be seen clearly. It was just that the place that was very far seemed to be reached in a short while. This feeling was very fun. Xin Jingxian seemed to have returned to her childhood when she was curious about the first time she took a car. Xiao Chen, what's wrong with the front? Xin Jingxian suddenly pointed to the front and exclaimed. In fact, Xiao Chen had already seen it, but he just didn't want to care. Not far ahead, a young girl was standing in the middle of the highway and waving her hand. Looking at her appearance, she seemed to be very anxious. Her face was a little pale and her figure was a little thin. In the cold wind of early winter, she was shivering and looked very pitiful. I don't know. Ignore her. Xiao Chen naturally heard that some late at night, a seemingly weak girl was sent to stop a car on the road. If you stopped, a large group of big men rushed up and beat you up and robbed you. In fact, sometimes it wasn't that people didn't do good deeds, but in many cases people were timid, especially late at night. They didn't dare to stop at will, especially in this wilderness. There were not many cars on the highway at night. There were no villages or shops in front of them. If something happened, they wouldn't be able to help. She looks very anxious and pitiful, Xin Jingxian said. Xiao Chen, everyone has difficulties just like you in the past. We shouldn't ignore her. Xin Jingxian was a kind person. Xiao Chen knew this before. At this time, after listening to her words, his heart slightly moved. In fact, Xin Jingxian had helped him before. If he refused at this moment, it would be a little unfair to her kindness. In the past, whether it was Miss Shen or Goddess Shen, they both risked their lives to race with him. If he was not willing to help others, it would be unreasonable. Moreover, Xiao Chen was now a cultivator at the 8th level of refinement stage. These ordinary robbers were no threat to him at all. Therefore, even if there was an accident, he could deal with it calmly. At that time, it was uncertain who would rob who. Okay. Xiao Chen nodded but still said, Jingxian, you are a kind girl. In the beginning, it was also this that attracted me. But I still have to say, sometimes if you are a girl outside, you don't have to worry about this kind of thing. What if she is a bad person? At that time, if you stop the car, she will bring a group of people to rob you. You don't have to worry about money, but if she wants to rape you, the consequences will be unimaginable. Do you think I am stupid? Xin Jingxian rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen. Her cheeks were a little red. I was thinking that you are in the car. You are so powerful that ordinary people are no match for you. So, what if this girl is really in trouble? I just want you to help her. That's good. Xiao Chen was relieved. It seemed that Goddess Shen was not unconditionally overflowing with love. He slowly began to slow down, and finally stopped in front of the girl who waved to stop the car. He opened the window and Xin Jingxian asked, What's wrong with you? Do you need any help? My grandma is sick. She's in the village up ahead. But it's so late and there are no long-distance buses. I can only hail a taxi here. Can you take me for a while? Thank you. The girl said anxiously. On the way? Xin Jingxian turned her head and looked at Xiao Chen. If it is on the way, can you take her for a while? Xin Jingxian had a feeling that they were in the same boat. Her grandfather was also sick, and so was this girl's grandmother. So, she felt that she must be as anxious as she was. The village ahead. Do we go straight? Do we need to turn? Xiao Chen asked. When he asked, he paid attention to the girl's surroundings. There were no signs of anyone rushing over. Could it be that there was really an urgent villager nearby? There is a fork in the road ahead. We will pass by Mingjia village, but after a turn, we will be able to come out and return to the highway. The girl said, I beg you, I can pay for the car. Take me for a while. It won't take long. You don't have to pay. Get in the car. Xiao Chen waved his hand. He didn't lack this bit of money. Now that he saw that there was no one rushing to rob the girl from behind, he believed her words. Okay, thank you, thank you. The girl thanked him profusely. Then she opened the back door and got in the car. You point the way. I will drive. Xiao Chen said to the girl behind him. Okay, go along this road first. When we reach the fork, I will tell you. The girl nodded quickly and said. Xiao Chen drove the car and the speed increased slowly. The girl sitting in the back was a little surprised. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to drive so fast. She looked a little scared. She crossed her arms and sat in the back. She didn't say a word and her eyes were fixed on the direction outside the window. Don't be nervous. He drives a little fast. We also need to hurry. Are you alone in your house? Why are you going out so late at night? It's so dangerous. You know, if you meet someone with bad intentions, you may be in danger. Shen Jingxian said to the girl. Ah, sister, my father and mother are both dead in my house. I'm the only one living here. My mother is married, but she and my father are both infected with the plague. The girl said with some sadness, just now, I received a call from my uncle saying that my grandmother has an acute illness. I'm afraid she won't make it this time, so I rushed over so quickly. So that's the case. Shen Jingxian sighed and said, I won't hide it from you. My grandfather is also seriously ill. We are rushing through the night and we are driving so fast because we want to see him. I am also afraid that when the time comes. I see. The girl was slightly stunned. Her pale face seemed to be a little paler. Her eyes flashed with a touch of pity. I'm sorry, I didn't know that you also have important things. How about you put it down for me? It's okay. It doesn't matter. Shen Jingxian smiled slightly and comforted her. Anyway, his car is fast. It won't take long. Okay. The girl nodded. You're so nice. In a while, drop me off at the intersection outside. I will walk in by myself. The girl said. How can that be? It's so dark at night. You're a girl. How can you walk in? Shen Jingxian said, well, you don't have to think too much. In the car, guide the way. And? The girl responded. Her mood was a little down. Maybe she thought of her sick grandmother. She closed her mouth and didn't say a word. Just in front, when they were about to reach the intersection, she said, it's in front. If it's troublesome, forget it. It won't be troublesome. Shen Jingxian said, Xiao Chen, turn here. Okay. Xiao Chen responded faintly and the car turned into the fork. The car drove forward. This was a dark path. There were no street lights on the highway before. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's headlights were xenon headlights. The brightness was relatively high and they could see a little more clearly. Chapter 448. However, Xiao Chen didn't think that there was a village on this road. This road was very desolate. There were no buildings around, not even fields. It was all barren. How could there be a village in such a place? In Xiao Chen's heart, there was a slight doubt. In fact, Xiao Chen already had some doubts before, but he didn't say it. In his opinion, this girl should be leading them to a place where there was no one and then robbing them. Perhaps there were already people waiting for them in front. After all, on the highway, although there were few cars, there were always accidents. Maybe there were police cars patrolling or something, then these robbers would be unlucky. Therefore, it was better to lure them to a deserted place to carry out the robbery. In this way, no one could see them at all. However, these were just Xiao Chen's guesses. He wasn't sure if it was really like this. After all, what if there was really a village here? Xiao Chen also knew that some villages were indeed in very remote places. The car continued to move forward. Sure enough, Xiao Chen's guess was right. Not far ahead, there was a village with a little light. This should be the village that the girl mentioned, but Xiao Chen always felt that there was something wrong. It's here. The girl pointed to the village not far away and said, thank you. Just stop at the entrance of the village. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and stopped the car. At this time, Shen Jingxian wanted to get off the car to send the girl off, but she was stopped by Xiao Chen. Jingxian, don't get off. Shen Jingxian was slightly surprised. Xiao Chen turned around with a cold smile and looked at the girl in the back of the car. He said indifferently, I don't care who you are or what you are. I've already done my best to send you here. There's a saying, you won't die if you don't court death. I hope you can understand its deeper meaning. The young lady's expression froze. Looking at Xiao Chen, a hint of panic flashed across her pale face. Thank you. I'll be leaving first. After saying that, the girl opened the door and quickly got out of the car. Shen Jingxian looked at Xiao Chen with some doubt. Xiao Chen, what do you mean by that? Is this a village? Take a closer look. Xiao Chen casually waved his hand and yuan qi spread out from his body. The village outside the window instantly changed. It was completely different from before. Ah. When Shen Jingxian saw the scene outside the window, her expression changed. How could there be a village outside the window? This was a graveyard. There were grave mounds and broken tombstones everywhere. There were also eerie white bones scattered on the ground. It was unknown whether they belonged to humans or animals. It was extremely horrifying. Xin Jingxian was so scared that she subconsciously leaned towards Xiao Chen. The village you saw before was just an illusion. To me it was just a small trick. Xiao Chen said faintly. His illusion was much stronger than this. This environment could only confuse ordinary people or warriors with weak minds. However, it was too easy for Xiao Chen to see through it. The six senses of a cultivator were extraordinarily powerful. Xiao Chen could see through the problem at a glance. However, because of the girl's previous actions, Xiao Chen didn't directly deal with her. It could be seen that this girl still had a conscience. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked Xiao Chen to stop the car again and again. She walked back by herself. This also showed that she didn't want to harm anyone. She could set up an illusion and even led people to a place like a graveyard. If she said that she was a good person, Xiao Chen wouldn't believe it. Therefore, he directly chased her out of the car. She could do whatever she wanted. It had nothing to do with Xiao Chen. However, just as Xiao Chen wanted to start the car and leave, the girl who got out of the car didn't walk a few steps. Her body stiffened. She turned around, walked back to the car and opened the door. The girl's action made Xiao Chen a little puzzled. Even Xin Jingxian was trembling at this moment. She looked at the girl in horror. This person actually came to the graveyard. Was she a human or a ghost? Sorry, I saw wrongly. This isn't my grandmother's village. This is a graveyard. We just encountered a ghost wall. The girl said in horror. A ghost wall? Xin Jingxian was slightly stunned, but she had also heard of the ghost wall. Could it be that she really encountered a ghost wall? Because it was really difficult for her to associate the weak girl in front of her with a bad person. In her opinion, the girl in front of her shouldn't be a bad person. Xiao Chen stared at the girl coldly. He didn't say a word and just looked at her. At this time, the girl suddenly winked at Xiao Chen as if she was hinting something to him. What are you doing? Asked Xiao Chen. We seem to be in the wrong place. Turn the car around. Let's go back, said the girl. This isn't your grandmother's house? Asked Xiao Chen. No, turn around quickly. The girl's voice suddenly became anxious. Can't we go around in front? Asked Xiao Chen. No. As soon as the girl's voice fell, a cold wind swept through the car window, followed by a gloomy laughter. Jia Xiao Yu, you just lured the prey here and now you want to take them away? Do you want to betray me? Accompanied by the cold wind, a woman's laughing voice sounded outside the car. Grandmother? The girl lowered her head. Her whole body was trembling. She didn't dare to look up. This was a strong evil aura. So, Xiao Chen didn't dare to have the slightest neglect. Xiao Chen didn't expect that there would be evil cultivators here. Moreover, their strength shouldn't be low. Jingxian, you stay in the car. Don't go out. I'll go down and take a look, Xiao Chen said decisively. Then his body surged with true qi. He was about to activate the dark flame palm. He stared coldly at the girl in the back of the car. If that's the case, I'll get rid of you first. No, don't. The girl suddenly trembled in fear. Don't kill me. I'm scared. Xiao Chen, don't kill her. She's quite pitiful. She must have been threatened by the person outside. Before, she didn't listen to us and turned around to leave. Xin Jingxian quickly reached out to stop Xiao Chen. All right. Xiao Chen thought for a moment. This girl still had some conscience. Moreover, this girl obviously shouldn't be a threat. So, Xiao Chen didn't pay any more attention to her. He directly pushed the door open and got out of the car. He looked not far away. It was a woman wearing a black conical bamboo hat. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, and her age couldn't be determined either. Her entire body was emitting a black aura, and in her hand was a skull. It looked as terrifying as one could imagine. Kid, you're not simple. Jejia. You can actually see through my illusion. The black bamboo hat woman looked at Xiao Chen coldly. Evil cultivator? Xiao Chen was not afraid in the slightest. Her attire could at most scare ordinary people. She must be dreaming if she thought she could scare a cultivator like Xiao Chen. You know about evil cultivators? The black bamboo hat woman was slightly stunned. You're a martial cultivator? What do you think? Xiao Chen didn't answer. Instead he asked. It's just right. The blood of a martial cultivator is the best nourishment for me. Kid, it's your honor to die under my skirt. The black bamboo hat woman waved her hand. A cloud of black mist flew toward Xiao Chen. What the hell is this? Xiao Chen easily dodged the black bamboo hat woman's attack. However, at this moment he clearly saw the black bamboo hat woman's strength. Evil cultivator with stage 10 inner force. You're quite nimble. The black bamboo hat woman sneered disdainfully. Because Xiao Chen didn't use any martial arts, he didn't show any inner force. She couldn't judge Xiao Chen's specific strength just by hiding. Therefore she thought he was only at stage 4 or 5 inner force. Dark Flame Palm. Xiao Chen didn't bother dealing with her at all. Taking advantage of the time she was taunting him, he activated his highest level martial technique. It was equivalent to a martial technique at the peak of the 9th stage of inner strength, and smashed towards the woman in the black bamboo hat. Bastard. The black bamboo hat woman's voice changed and became a little sharp. She realized something was wrong and suddenly retreated. However, she was still hit by Xiao Chen's palm. Even though it wasn't serious, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Peak of stage 9 inner force, evil cultivator. Another palm. Xiao Chen sneered and continued to use his martial arts. He thought to himself, this black bamboo hat woman's reaction is much faster than that elder Shishan. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Corpse soldiers attack him but don't kill him. I want to suck his blood myself. The black bamboo hat woman sneered and gave an order to something. As soon as the black bamboo hat woman's voice fell, the graves next to her began to crack in the blink of an eye. From inside, rotten bones crawled out. The bones, which were the so-called corpse soldiers, crawled out of the graves and surrounded Xiao Chen from all directions. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, with a strange aura, as if they wanted to devour Xiao Chen. Dark Flame Palm. Xiao Chen waved his hand at the corpse soldiers in front of him. With a loud bang, a few of the corpse soldiers were instantly knocked down and turned into a pile of scattered bones. But to Xiao Chen's surprise, those skeletons that were scattered on the ground actually did not die. Instead, they once again gathered and reassembled, turning into corpse soldiers that surrounded him once again. Don't waste your energy. Just surrender. The black bamboo hat woman sneered and looked at Xiao Chen. Grandma, they're good people. Let them go. At this time, the girl from before suddenly walked out of the car and begged the black bamboo hat woman, Grandma, don't hurt people anymore. They are not bad people. Just now, you wanted to let them go in private. I haven't settled the score with you yet. How dare you talk nonsense with me? The black bamboo hat woman glared at the girl named Xiaoyu. Mind your own business. Chapter 449. But, they are really good people and he is not a pervert. Those perverts that were lured here were killed by you, but he is not, he is a good person. The girl's voice trembled as she begged while crying, This is not right. You're rebelling, aren't you? You're just a little cultivator, how dare you order me? Do you want to die? The woman in the black bamboo hat scolded, Stay aside, I'll deal with you later. Xiao Chen took advantage of the opportunity when the woman in the black bamboo hat and the girl were talking to each other to quickly think of countermeasures. Although these skeleton soldiers did not have much attack power, a strong man could not stand against so many people, especially when these things could not be killed. After being killed, they would instantly revive with full health. This was simply the existence of a bug. If not for these things, he would still have the strength to fight with the woman in the black bamboo hat, but now he could not even deal with these corpse soldiers. Just as he defeated one side, the other side revived, giving Xiao Chen a headache. What should he do? What should he do? Is there any cultivator's ability that can restrain them? Suddenly, Xiao Chen's peripheral vision locked onto a broken tombstone behind the woman in the black bamboo hat not far away. A sneer flashed across the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth. That half of the tombstone slowly rose into the air, and the sharp edge of the broken tombstone happened to be aimed at the woman in the black bamboo hat. Go to hell, Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. That tombstone suddenly stabbed toward the woman in the black bamboo hat, and with a poochie sound, the tombstone pierced through the woman in the black bamboo hat. Ouch! The woman in the black bamboo hat screamed. At this moment, half of her attention was on the corpse soldiers. She had to control these corpse soldiers to attack Xiao Chen, and the other half of her attention was on the girl Xiaoyu. She was talking to Xiaoyu and she did not use her evil energy to protect her body, so she was not on guard at all. Even in her dreams, she did not expect that half of the tombstone would fly behind her and pierce through her. There was indeed a connection between the woman in the black bamboo hat and the corpse soldiers. After she was injured, the corpse soldiers all stood still and did not attack Xiao Chen. They just stood there meaninglessly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xiao Chen sent out a dark flame palm, smashing all the corpse soldiers in front of him, and prepared to deal with the woman in the black bamboo hat. But the woman in the black bamboo hat was not stupid. After being pierced by the tombstone, she did not die, but she did not continue to fight. She got up, gritted her teeth and ran away. While running, she sneered and shouted, Just you, I, the old corpse, will never let you go. Next time I will take your life. Clearly, this woman was very familiar with this area. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared without a trace. Xiao Chen wanted to chase after her, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. After thinking about it again and again, he turned around and walked to the car. After all, Shen Jingshan was still in the car. If he did not catch her, the woman in the black bamboo hat would come back and kill him. At that time, it would be too late for Xiao Chen to regret it. Xiao Chen got in the car and asked Shen Jingshan, "Jingshan, are you scared?" "It's okay now. It's all over." "It's okay." Shen Jingshan was also relieved. Just now she was also scared to death. The woman in the black bamboo hat was so powerful that she could control the bones to form corpse soldiers. This was simply unheard of. On the other hand, Xiao Chen did not find it strange. These evil cultivators had very strange methods. This was nothing. As for whether the woman in the black bamboo hat was dead or not, he did not think about it. It did not have much to do with him. Xiao Chen wanted to start the car and leave, but Shen Jingshan said, "Xiao Chen, that Xiaoyu is very pitiful. Let's take her away." "Xiaoyu?" Xiao Chen turned his head and looked out the window. The girl was standing in the same place. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded, opened the window and said, "You can get in the car with me." If it weren't for the girl's good heart and the fact that she helped him at the critical moment, Xiao Chen would have ignored her even if he didn't kill her. "Oh." The girl nodded quickly, ran over, opened the door and got in the car. "Tell me what's going on. Who was that granny just now, the old corpse of the West Mountain? And who are you? Why are you with her?" Xiao Chen asked. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. You're good people. I shouldn't have lied to you." Xiaoyu lowered her head and was a little nervous. She did not dare to look at Xiao Chen and just kept apologizing. "I want to know the reason, not apologize. If you don't tell me, I don't mind killing you," Xiao Chen said. "The old corpse of Shishan can run away, but do you think you can run away by yourself?" Xiaoyu shook her head and said, "My name is Nye Xiaoyu, I'm a ghost cultivator and I'm controlled by Grandma." "Nye Xiaoyu?" Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. "What's your relationship with Nye Xiao Chen?" "Ah." Nye Xiaoyu was stunned for a long time, then said, "Nothing. Oh, it's okay. Go on." Xiao Chen nodded and said, "How did she control you?" "I'm a ghost cultivator. A wisp of my primordial spirit is controlled by Grandma. I have to listen to her. If I don't listen to her, she will destroy my soul." Nye Xiaoyu said, "So, under her coercion, I helped her deceive people to come here and let her suck my essence and blood. Wait, what is a ghost cultivator? Also, your primordial spirit is controlled by her. What about now? If you go with us, aren't you afraid that she will take revenge on you?" Xiao Chen asked. "Ghost cultivator?" Nye Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment and said, "Actually, I'm a dead person. Do you believe it?" Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. A dead person? Nye Xiaoyu was a dead person? Xiao Chen's gaze suddenly froze when he looked at her. Sure enough, there was a cold aura on Nye Xiaoyu's body, and there was no vitality. No wonder her face was so pale. However, it was Xiao Chen's first time hearing the term ghost cultivator. He didn't know what kind of martial artist it belonged to, or was it a different kind? "I believe it." In other words, martial artists who cultivate dead people are called ghost cultivators? Xiao Chen asked. No. Dead people can't cultivate." Nye Xiaoyu shook her head and said, "I was killed after I cultivated the mental cultivation method of ghost cultivators so I could continue to cultivate. Normal dead people can't cultivate. In fact, ghost cultivators are also a branch of evil cultivators, or a branch of demonic cultivators. However, the key point is to put oneself in a desperate situation and then come back to life. However, there are very few people who really succeed in cultivating it. Generally, death is death and they will never come back to life, let alone cultivate." Hearing Nye Xiaoyu's words, Xiao Chen felt a little horrified, but he still roughly understood her situation. He nodded and said, "In other words, you are now a living dead person?" "More or less." Nye Xiaoyu smiled bitterly. "Okay, then what about your primordial spirit?" Xiao Chen asked. "Previously, a wisp of my primordial spirit was extracted by Grandma, the West Mountain old corpse. When I was cultivating, she extracted it when I was unprepared to control me. However, you injured her and she couldn't suppress my primordial spirit, so I took it back," Nye Xiaoyu said. "Thank you. Otherwise, I would have been controlled by her to harm people." "How did you harm people? How did she cultivate? Who is this West Mountain old corpse?" Xiao Chen asked. This was not the first time he heard about the evil cultivators of West Mountain Old X. There was the West Mountain Old Demon, West Mountain Old Man, and now there was the West Mountain Old Corpse. Where did these evil cultivators come from? Why were they called West Mountain Old X? Did they come from the same place? Do they have any contact with each other? Moreover, when Xiaochen walked out of Songning City, he realized that he was just a frog at the bottom of a well. In the outside world, there were more and more masters of Inner Force level 10. In just a few days he had seen 2, and one was at the peak of Inner Force level 10. She asked me to rob cars on the road and lure people to this place. Then I would lure them to get out of the car and hint that I liked them. Many perverts would be happy to have sex with me. I would lure them to the graveyard that was transformed into a village, and then let Grandma have sex with them. She would suck their blood essence, and after they died they would become corpse soldiers and be controlled by Grandma. Nie Xiaoyu said. You still call her Grandma? Xiaochen frowned. I'm used to it. Nie Xiaoyu quickly said. It's the West Mountain Old Corpse. I see, but it seems that you are still a kind person. It's not a heinous crime, so I won't punish you. I'll take you away from this place, but you have to rely on yourself in the future. Don't be controlled by these evil cultivators anymore. As Xiaochen said this, he started the car, turned the car around, and returned to the Beltway Highway. The Beltway Highway was a section of Beltway Highway before the highway. There were several forks on the road that led to the city or nearby villages. Nie Xiaoyu chose to stop the car here so there would be a lot of people who were fooled. Especially at night, many perverts thought that they might have a one-night stand, so they became the food of the West Mountain Old Corpse. Actually, just now, I thought that you were good people, so I kept persuading you to stop. Nie Xiaoyu said, generally I will ask kind-hearted people to stop. I won't harm them again. In that case, why didn't you tell me the truth? If a good person like me insisted on doing it to the end, wouldn't I have suffered for nothing? Xiaochen asked. Not as persistent as you. Nie Xiaoyu said timidly, I didn't dare to say it. I was afraid that if I told you, you would beat me to death. You're a yin cultivator. Are you afraid of being beaten to death? What's your strength? Xiaochen asked curiously. Stage 5 Inner Force. However, my primordial spirit is controlled by the West Mountain Old Corpse, so I can't exert any strength. I can't even beat ordinary people. Nie Xiaoyu said weakly. Okay. Xiaochen's car quickly returned to the Beltway Highway. If they drove forward, they would reach the highway to Lan City. Xiaochen asked, We're going to Lan City. Where are you going? Where should I leave you? Chapter 450. Whatever. It's better to go as far as possible. I'm afraid that the West Mountain Corpse will come back. I can't beat her. Even if she can't extract my primordial spirit in my normal state, she will still kill me. Nie Xiaoyu was obviously very afraid of death. It was possible that she had died once, so she was especially afraid of death. Alright, tell me where to stop and I'll stop for you. Xiaochen's car entered the highway intersection, and then he drove at a high speed again. Xin Jingxian, who was on the side, was amazed. Although she was born in a Jinwu family, she had never heard of yin cultivators. However, Nie Xiaoyu's experience was really pitiful. First, she was cultivated into a yin cultivator, then she was killed, and then she was controlled by the West Mountain Corpse. Therefore, Xin Jingxian did not have any resentment towards her. After a while, she took the initiative to talk to her. Nie Xiaoyu, what did you do in the past? Why did you cultivate yin cultivators? My family was destroyed. Nie Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment and said, and I was also taken away to be experimented on yin cultivators. They asked me to practice mental cultivation methods first, and then they killed me. Maybe it was because my reaction was slow. I didn't wake up in a normal time, so they thought I was dead and threw my body in the wilderness. As a result, I woke up and quickly ran away, cultivating while running. If I didn't cultivate, I would die again. I wanted to take revenge for my parents. In the end, I met the West Mountain Corpse. Sigh. Xin Jingxian couldn't help but sigh after hearing this. Nie Xiaoyu's life was really tragic. She couldn't help but feel sympathetic. Xiaochen, can we help her? Oh. Xiaochen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. First of all, with his strength, it was impossible for him to avenge Nie Xiaoyu. The forces that could create yin cultivators were definitely not small. If Xiaochen went, he would only be courting death. Moreover, he didn't know anything about yin cultivators. It was impossible for him to help Nie Xiaoyu cultivate, so Xiaochen couldn't help at all. This. Xin Jingxian thought about it carefully and agreed. How could she help Nie Xiaoyu? You are all good people, so I won't trouble you. Besides, you really can't help me much. Nie Xiaoyu said, in fact, even I don't know who my enemy is. Huh? Xin Jingxian didn't expect Nie Xiaoyu to be so miserable. Don't worry about me. I'm lucky to be able to live until now. Nie Xiaoyu shook her head. You're all good people. If there is a chance in the future, I will repay you. Alive? Aren't you dead? Xiaoqin smiled bitterly. Hearing a dead man say that he would repay him, why was it so horrifying? How should I put it? I can be regarded as a living dead now. Cultivators pay attention to life after death. This life can also be understood as resurrection. It may be a little different, but I'm not much different from a normal person now and I can still eat. Nie Xiaoyu said, it's just that I feel uncomfortable when I see sunlight, and I will lose strength after a long time, so I'm more suitable to come out at night. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not a ghost nor a corpse. I see. Xin Jingxian breathed a sigh of relief. Previously she was a little afraid of Nie Xiaoyu and thought that she was very scary. Now that she heard what Nie Xiaoyu said, she realized that Nie Xiaoyu was also a normal person, but her cultivation method was different. There's a fork in the highway up ahead. Just drop me off. I'll find a place to settle down first. This time I'll rent a house and focus on my cultivation. I won't go to a graveyard, a place with heavy yin qi just for the sake of cultivating faster. Nie Xiaoyu also learned from her mistakes. Last time, her primordial spirit was extracted by the old corpse of West Mountain there. In front? Isn't it a little close? Are you sure? Don't let the old corpse of West Mountain find you. Xiaoqin reminded her. Then where are you going? Nie Xiaoyu asked. We're going to Lan City. Xiaoqin said, it's quite far from here. You should be able to live in peace. Then let's go to Lan City. Nie Xiaoyu actually had no purpose. She was afraid of troubling Xiaoqin before. Now that it was on the way, she would go with him. Xiaoqin drove fast on the highway. Even though he drove very fast, Lan City and Songning were on the border of the south and north, so it would take a long time to buy a house. Finally, at dawn, Xiaoqin's car arrived at Lan City. After getting off the highway, Xiaoqin found a place to put Nie Xiaoyu down. Nie Xiaoyu couldn't see the sun for a long time, so she found a small hotel and stayed there. She planned to look for a house in the evening. Xiaoqin drove to the Xin family with Xin Jingxian. When they were about to arrive at the Xin family, Xiaoqin took out the mask of the white fox and covered his face. Since he had arrived at the Xin family, he couldn't use Xiaoqin's face to show others. It was better for him to use the face of the white fox. Under the guidance of Xin Jingxian, Xiaoqin drove the car to the front of a very magnificent manor. This was not out of Xiaoqin's expectation. In Songning, the Qing family was also this imposing. It was normal for the Xin family to be more imposing as they belonged to the real martial arts family. The manor occupied a large area. It obviously cost a lot of money to build it. However, Xiaoqin didn't expect that when the car drove into the manor, a modern atmosphere hit him. The entire manor was like a high-tech development zone, which surprised Xiaoqin a little. Didn't these ancient martial arts families like to live in those kind of antique houses? These people who practiced martial arts had an extraordinary fondness and nostalgia for those ancient things. In Songning, even the Xiao family was like this. The house was built according to the style of ancient families as much as possible. There were no tall buildings inside, at most no more than 3 stories, and they were full of martial arts atmosphere. The courtyard was the same, with rockery and gardens. Some modern street lights and driveways were avoided as much as possible. However, it was different here. After entering the manor, looking around, there was not only a spacious driveway, but also modern street lights and a modern farm. Is this your home? Why does it feel like a modern big enterprise? Xiaoqin asked with some puzzlement. The Xin family was not originally here. The Xin family wasn't originally here. This place was built according to Second Grandpa's idea. Although Second Grandpa's strength level was very high, he wasn't a martial artist when he was young. He even studied abroad. After he came back, by chance he entered the demonic sect and became an expert demonic cultivator, so his thinking was more modern. No one in the family could disobey his arrangements, so the family was built like this. Xin Jingxian said, when I was young, I actually lived in a place similar to Meng Ying's family. So that's how it is. Xiaoqin thought that Second Grandpa of the Xin family was really a legendary figure. He became a monk halfway, but he was so powerful, just like himself. The car drove all the way and finally drove into the villa area. It stopped in front of a super large courtyard house. This was the residence of the core members of the Xin family. Those ordinary servants and disciples naturally could not live here. Only the people of the Xin family lived here. Xiaoqin parked the car and got out with Xin Jingxian. Xin Jingxian walked quickly to the courtyard house. At the entrance of the courtyard house, there were disciples of the Xin family guarding. When they saw Xin Jingxian they were slightly surprised but then they quickly ran over. It was a man in his 20s wearing a training suit. He should be a core disciple of the Xin family. Miss Jingxian, my name is Xin Xiaolu. You're back. Mr. Zheng Hao said that you will arrive in the morning. When you arrive I will directly take you to him. The disciple of the Xin family called Xin Xiaolu walked over and said. But his eyes fell on Xiao Qin. Because Xiao Qin was wearing a mask, Xin Xiaolu was especially vigilant. He asked, Miss Jingxian, this is my boyfriend Baihu. Xin Jingxian introduced. He came with me. My father also knows him. Xin Xiaolu nodded and said, good, you can come with us. But in the inner courtyard of the Xin family, don't make a noise. Understood. Xiao Qin did not object. After all, he went to the Xin family so he had to follow their rules. Xiao Qin and Xin Jingxian followed behind Xin Xiaolu. They walked all the way to a relatively remote villa in the courtyard. But when they walked, they saw a woman in her 40s wearing casual clothes. When she saw Xin Jingxian she was obviously stunned. Then she came out and said, oh Jingxian, you are back? So it is Aunt, Big Aunt. Xin Jingxian raised her head and saw Tan Muwei, the wife of her big uncle. Her big uncle was a core disciple of the Xin family. Unlike her father, who was born from a concubine, his status was naturally not the same. And her big uncle's son, Xin Jingtian, was a strong contender for the position of junior patriarch. But now it seems that the situation has changed subtly. These martial arts families generally choose the junior patriarch after a generation. They will not choose the junior patriarch from the next generation unless the age gap is obvious. Because the lifespan of a martial artist is very long, generally speaking, a father and a son may live for the same amount of time. Therefore, the Xin family used to compete for the position of junior patriarch in Xin Jingmao's generation. But now, because of Xin Jingshuan's grandfather's sudden illness, it is possible that the position of junior patriarch will fall on Xin Jingshuan's father's generation. And the most likely candidate is Xin Jingshuan's big uncle, Xin Jingquan. Jingxian, who is this? Your bodyguard? Tan Muwei looked at Xiao Chen and asked. This is my boyfriend White Fox. Xin Jingxian introduced. White Fox, this is my aunt. You can also call her aunt. When Xiao Chen was about to greet her, he heard Tan Muwei say coldly, I can't afford it. Jingxian, if you want a boyfriend, why don't you tell your family? With your grandfather's condition you still want a boyfriend? This matter needs to be discussed with the family again. The marriage of the Xin family's children needs to listen to the family's arrangements. Chapter 451. Xin Jingxian was stunned. She didn't expect that she would have to tell the Xin family that she had a boyfriend. Wasn't she a neglected person in the Xin family before? Why did Andy have to take care of this kind of thing after coming back? Xiao Chen's face darkened, but he was wearing a mask so others couldn't see it. He didn't expect that the problems in the Xin family were more serious than he had imagined. He originally thought that his strength was more than enough to match Xin Jingxian, but she didn't take him seriously at all. Of course, it could also be said that White Fox's name was only limited to Songning City and hadn't spread to Lan City. These people didn't know about him, so it was normal for them to look down on him. Alright Jingxian, you go find your father first. As for this White Fox, you are a guest in the Xin family so you must follow the rules of a guest. Jingxian, arrange a guest room for him. Tan Muwei said coldly. This. Xin Jingxian was a little hesitant. She wanted to defend Xiao Chen but she didn't know what to say. However, Xiao Chen just nodded lightly. Jingxian, take me to the guest room. Although he was a little disappointed, he didn't put Xin Jingxian in a difficult position. Xiao Chen originally thought that he could live with Xin Jingxian in the Xin family and enjoy a shameless cohabitation. He didn't expect that his dream would be shattered. If this old woman wasn't Xin Jingshuan's aunt, Xiao Chen would have sent her flying with a kick. Damn it, why was there so much trouble? However, this person was a member of the Xin family. If Xiao Chen had a conflict with her as soon as he arrived, he would be causing trouble for Goddess Xin. So he endured it. Alright, I'll take him to visit my father first, then take him to the guest room. Xin Jingxian heaved a sigh of relief. She knew Xiao Chen's character. This guy would kill if he didn't agree with her, but she didn't expect him to be so obedient, which surprised her a little. Well then I'll go to work first. Your grandfather needs someone to take care of him. Your eldest uncle has been taking charge of the affairs of the Xin family for the past 2 days. He's very busy. Tan Muwei seemed to be deliberately showing off. She deliberately said that Xin Jingquan was taking charge of the family. Xin Jingxian didn't say anything, but under Xin Xiaoyou's guidance, they arrived at the entrance of the villa and pressed the doorbell. After a while, the door of the villa opened, and they saw Shin Jinghao's haggard face as well as Shin Jingmao, who was following behind him, looking a little unhappy. "Dad, how is Grandpa? Is it serious?" Shin Jingmao quickly asked. "I heard it's very serious." Shin Jinghao sighed and said, "The Shin family's apothecary can only barely keep the old man alive. If we can't find a solution in the next few days, then the apothecary will be powerless and won't be able to keep him alive." "Ah, it's so serious," Shin Jingxian said in surprise. However, Xiaoqin heard two strange words. "It was said," so he asked, "Uncle Shin, what do you mean by it is said? You didn't see it yourself?" "It's not that I didn't see it," Shin Jinghao said helplessly. "I'm not the daughter of the main wife, so I can only be classified as a collateral relative in the Shin family. My eldest brother doesn't allow me to see my father, saying that I will disturb his rest. It's really worrying me. How can eldest uncle do this?" Shin Jingxian was a little angry after hearing this. "He is obviously your father and my grandfather. Why don't you let me see him?" "It's all because of Shin Jingquan. He's jumping up and down trying to get the position. At the beginning, Grandpa said that he wouldn't choose the young master from the second generation, but now there's an accident, and he thinks he can get the position," Shin Jingmao said with some anger. In this period of time he had paid a lot for the position of the young master. Especially his sister and father, they were trying their best to help him. But now suddenly his hope was shattered. Shin Jingmao was naturally unhappy. "Where is Grandpa? I'm going to find him." Shin Jingxian said, "Jingmao and I are juniors. Can't we see him?" Shin Jingxian said anxiously. "You can try." Shin Jinghao sighed. This was also the reason why he wanted Shin Jingmao to get the position. He didn't want to go back to the Shin family. When he went back to the Shin family, he was always the one who wasn't welcomed. Everyone didn't put him in their eyes. This also caused Shin Jinghao's heart to be somewhat distorted and paranoid. He was brooding about the position of the young master and put all his hopes on Shin Jingmao. But now this matter happened. It made his heart feel a little stifled. Although his father's body wasn't very strong, he was a martial artist after all. It shouldn't be a problem for him to persist for 8 to 10 years. At that time, Shin Jingmao still had a chance to get the position. But who would have thought that he would suddenly become critically ill? This made Shin Jinghao lose all his confidence. He was a lot more depressed. "Jingmao, Baihu, accompany me to see Grandpa," Shin Jingxian said with some eagerness. "All right." Shin Jingmao immediately agreed. He didn't do it for the position of the young master. He really wanted to see the safety of his grandfather. When he returned home, he stayed in the villa and didn't see his grandfather. "Your grandfather is still in his villa. It's the biggest house in the middle," Shin Jinghao said. Shin Jingshuan's grandfather was this generation's master of the Shin family. Although he was the second great-grandfather, the second great-grandfather rarely asked about things. He usually didn't live here. He was in another separate house and cultivated in seclusion. Together with Shin Jingxian, they went out of the room and came to the door of the biggest villa in the Sihiyuan. This villa was very luxurious and beautiful. It was taller than the other villas, which represented the power of the owner who lived in it. Shin Jingxian walked into the villa with Xiao Qian and Shin Jingmao. Of course, after entering the villa, there was not a room inside, but a large separate courtyard. It could be said that this villa was a courtyard. In the Sihiyuan there was a separate courtyard. In the courtyard there were some exquisite potted plants and some garden landscapes. There was also a small pond. The small courtyard was built according to the style of the old house of the Shin family. Although the second great-grandfather was a modern man, Shin Jingshuan's grandfather was a nostalgic person. Even if he didn't dare to disobey the second great-grandfather in the overall architectural direction of the Shin family's big house, he preserved the original style in his courtyard. Therefore, the moment they entered the small courtyard, Shin Jingxian was slightly absent-minded. This was exactly the same as the Shin family when she was a child. At that time, she, Shin Jingmao, and the third generation of the Shin family sat around the round table and listened to her grandfather tell them some interesting stories and life principles. At that time, there was no fighting among the younger generation. There was only the friendship of brothers and sisters. However, this relationship changed at some point. Everyone became wary of each other and even slandered and framed each other. Shin Jinghao soon took them away from the Shin family. Now they could only recall the beautiful memories of their childhood. This made Shin Jingxian a little sigh. How she wished that she could go back to her childhood when she was carefree. However, that was no longer possible. When people grew up, they would find that they had lost a lot of fun. After passing through a rugged path, the three of them came to the villa behind the courtyard. At the door they could smell the smell of medicinal herbs being brewed. Xiao Qin brewed the medicinal liquid every day, so there was nothing wrong with it. However, Xin Jingxian and Xin Jingmao couldn't help but frown slightly. This should be the medicinal liquid brewed by the clan's apothecary. When the three of them entered the door, they were stopped by someone. This person was Xin Jingshuan's second aunt, Su Luhua. Different from Tan Muwei, she was also born in a big family. With this relationship, Xin Jingshuan's second uncle was also a strong candidate for the position of the head of the family. Although Xin Jingquan was jumping up and down, Xin Jingxin was also restless. These days, he had been thinking of ways to be the head of the family. Of course, pleasing the old man was one of his main responsibilities. He didn't have the status of Xin Jingshuan's eldest son, so he couldn't naturally win over the power of the family. Therefore he started from the old man, hoping that the old man could say something or make a will to let him be the acting head of the family. Different from Tan Muwei's cold personality, Su Luhua seemed to be very enthusiastic when she saw Xin Jingxian. "Jingxian, you are back. Your grandpa mentioned you before." Su Luhua pulled Xin Jingxian with a happy face and said, "Jingmao, you are also here." "This is?" "Second aunt, this is my boyfriend, Baihu. This time he accompanied me to visit grandpa," said Xin Jingxian. "I see, but Jingxian, it's not that I don't want you to see grandpa, but the current situation is not optimistic. Your eldest uncle made a rule that other than him and your second uncle, no one else in the Xin family can enter the old man's room without permission, and he is now the acting head of the Xin family." Su Luhua shrugged her shoulders and looked at Xin Jingxian with a troubled face. This woman was not simple. Xiao Qin thought in his heart. She obviously didn't want Xin Jingxian to visit Grandpa Xin, but with a few words she focused the main conflict on Xin Jingquan, and they had nothing to do. She wanted the Xin family to have a conflict. At that time all the children of the Xin family would target Xin Jingquan, and she and Xin Jingxin would benefit from it. It was a good plan. "Second aunt, the Xin family is still under Grandpa's control, right? How can Uncle speak for Grandpa? As the children of the Xin family, why can't we visit Grandpa? If Grandpa said this, then I have nothing to say, but since he said it, I won't accept it. Who decided that he was the acting head of the family? Who authorized it?" Xin Jingmao was hot-blooded and he fell into the trap immediately. He said with righteous indignation. However, Xiao Qin didn't say it out loud. It was good to make a scene. The Xin family was too suffocating, and he was also not satisfied with the first branch of the Xin family. At this time the second son, Xin Jingxin, came out from inside, and behind him was the first aunt, Tan Muwei. Hearing the noise at the door, Tan Muwei's face was a bit ugly. "What's going on? Don't you know that Grandpa is bedridden? Why are you still making noise? Do you think the matter is not big enough?" Chapter 452. "Luhua, what's going on?" "It's Jingxian and Jingmao." Xin Jingxin glanced at Xin Jingxian and pretended to be confused. "Second uncle, we want to go in and see Grandpa. We don't agree with the order of the acting family head." Xin Jingmao shouted. "Rebellious, you're really rebellious." Tan Muwei was furious. She slapped the door beside her and shouted, "It's a special time now. It's reasonable that the acting family head doesn't allow us to visit Grandpa. There are so many children in the Xin family, both from the main family and the branch families. Grandpa won't be able to rest when it's so crowded every day." "Look, Jingxian." Su Luhua shrugged and spread her hands helplessly. "I want to go in today. Let's see what they can do to me." Xin Jingmao was anxious and wanted to rush in. "You." Although Tan Muwei was an elder, she wasn't a warrior. Xin Jingmao was a stage 5 inner force warrior. How could she stop him? Although Xin Jingxin was also a warrior, he didn't have any intention of stopping him. Instead he said, "Sister-in-law, I think Jingmao is right. He and Jingxian are very close to our Xin family. It's right to go and see." "You don't listen to your elder brother?" Tan Muwei said angrily. "My elder brother is an elder. If he's right, I'll listen. But if he's wrong, I don't dare to agree, right?" Xin Jingxin smiled. "Grandpa didn't say who is the family head. Elder brother is just older. We younger brothers give in to him, but don't think that he can be a dictator." "You?" Tan Muwei's face turned red. She stomped her feet and ran out of the villa angrily. Xin Jingxin and Su Luhua looked at each other and smiled. They turned around and followed Xin Jingxian and the others into the villa. They didn't need to do anything else. They just needed to keep provoking the relationship between others and the first branch. "Grandpa is here, right?" Xin Jingxian came to her grandpa's bedroom and pushed the door open. Xin Jingmao and Xiao Qin followed closely behind and entered the room. The room was very large and spacious. Just like the courtyard downstairs, it was also decorated in an ancient style. The wooden bed, wooden table, wooden chairs, and even the electric lamps were antique, the kind of lantern-shaped lamps painted with ink paintings. A tall old man with a pale face was lying on the bed. His head was leaning against a pillow. He wasn't unconscious, but his complexion was very poor. When he saw Shen Jingxian coming in, a glimmer of light flashed through his dull eyes. He said with a trembling voice, "Jingxian Jingmao, you're back?" There were two people standing in the room. One was carefully checking the old man's pulse, and the other was on standby at the side. The one who was checking the old man's pulse should be the apothecary, and the one on standby was a disciple of the Shen family. This person was Shen Jingshuan's grandfather, Shen Shanhe. Although the old man's mental state was not good, his mind was very clear. "Grandpa, how are you?" Shen Jingxian looked at the haggard grandfather. Her eyes suddenly became wet and red. She ran over and squatted in front of the bed. She held her grandfather's hand and asked, "Grandpa, how did you become like this? Weren't you fine before?" When people get older, their problems come. Maybe one day there will be a problem. "Jingxian, I haven't seen you for a long time. You've grown up." After Shen Shanhe finished speaking, he looked at Shen Jingmao. "Jingmao, not bad. I heard that you were very brave at the Songning Summit. You didn't admit defeat in the face of a higher-level opponent. Not bad. You are a disciple of the Shen family. You didn't bring shame to the Shen family." "Grandpa, but I still lost." Shen Jingmao was a little embarrassed. "Grandpa, are you okay? How do you feel?" "I'm fine. Hee, when people get old, there will be a day like this. Originally, I was going to choose a young master during the new year, but I'm afraid I won't be able to see it." Shen Shanhe sighed. "What I'm most worried about is the Shen family. I know the situation of the Shen family. If I go, the Shen family will be in chaos." "Isn't there your second great-grandfather in charge?" Shen Jingxian was stunned and then said, "Besides, Grandpa, you will be fine. Your second great-grandfather came out of seclusion to take a look at me. When he realized that there was no hope, he went back. He doesn't like to bother with the trivial matters of the family, so." Shen Shanhe said, "And I've also let it go. If your second great-grandfather says there's no hope, then there's no hope." "Grandpa." In an instant, Shen Jingshuan's tears flowed. She still had deep feelings for her grandfather. Although, perhaps because of some family restrictions after they grew up, her grandfather rarely asked about them. But in Shen Jingshuan's heart, her grandfather would always be the kind old man who told them stories when they were young. "Silly child, it's human nature to grow old and die. I've already let it go. Besides, I'm actually not young anymore. It's rare for a person to live to 70. I'm already 90 this year. Among the warriors, my lifespan is relatively short. But compared to ordinary people, I've lived a long life." Shen Shanhe said. "Right, White Fox, don't you have medical skills? Let me have a look." Shen Jingxian suddenly thought of Xiao Chen. At this time, it was like grasping at a life-saving straw. At that time, Shen Jingmao's serious injury could be cured by Xiao Chen. Then, her grandfather must have a way. Xiao Chen hesitated. It wasn't that he didn't want to help, but the current situation of the Shen family was very complicated. Would these people let him do it easily? "Young man, are you Jingshuan's friend?" Shen Shanhe raised his head and looked at Xiao Chen at the side. "Why are you still wearing a mask in the house?" "What does this mean?" "Grandpa, because of the mental cultivation method he practices, his face can't be seen, so he needs to wear a mask." Shen Jingxian had thought of an excuse along the way. Because no one would ask in Songning, but when they came to the Shen family, there would inevitably be people asking. If there was no reasonable explanation, it would lead to unnecessary speculation. "So that's how it is." Shen Shanhe nodded. However, before Shen Shanhe's voice fell, there was a sharp and mean voice outside the door. "He doesn't have the face to see people. I don't know if it's because he's too ugly, or because he has a case on him. He came to the Shen family and still wore a mask. Jingxian, I'm afraid you haven't seen his real face, have you? It's better to have less contact with this kind of person in the future." The person who came in was naturally Tan Muwei, who had left in a rage before. She saw that the second family let Xiao Chen and Shen Jingxian in, and suddenly became a little angry, so she went to find Shen Jingquan for help. Sure enough, behind her, Shen Jingquan came in and angrily walked to Xiao Chen, shouting, "Who are you? How did you come to my father's ward? And wearing a mask? Are you plotting something?" "I'm Jingshuan's boyfriend, Baihu. Didn't your wife tell you?" Xiao Chen was really a little disgusted by Shen Jingxuan's pretense. On the way here, Tan Mue would definitely mention him to him, but the moment he came in he pretended not to know him. Was he acting or was he trying to put on a show? Boyfriend? Who identified you as Jingshuan's boyfriend? Don't you know that Jingshuan's marriage is decided by her father? We don't even know you, and yet you shamelessly came to the Shin family? No wonder you're wearing a mask to hide. Get out. Shin Jingquan shouted at Xiao Qin, and he directly vented his anger at the second family on Xiao Qin. Shin Jingmao was a little anxious. Before he didn't think much of Xiao Qin, but after the summit he quite admired Xiao Qin. At this time, naturally he had to say, "Uncle, brother Bai, who is a doctor that my sister and I invited. He can treat grandpa. Don't be so rude." Doctor? He's a doctor? Tan Mue was immediately amused. Jingmao, you're still young. Are you being deceived? Do you believe anyone who says he can treat a disease? Don't you know that even Medicine Master Tan of the Warrior Guild said he couldn't do anything? Do you think a doctor is better than my brother? Although Tan Mue didn't come from a big family, her status in the Shin family rose because her brother went to the Warrior Guild in Lan City to be a medicine master. Although the Zhenwu family wasn't afraid of the local Warrior Guild because they were all managed by the Warrior Guild headquarters, they had to respect the medicine masters in the local Warrior Guild and the Warrior Market. After all, who hadn't gotten sick or injured? Even the herbs used for cultivation had to rely on others to refine, and Tan Mue's brother, Medicine Master Tan, was the chief medicine master in Lan City's Warrior Market. That's not necessarily true. Shin Jingmao's face turned red, and he didn't know how to refute. But Xiao Qin said indifferently. Although he didn't want to cause trouble in the Shin family, he wasn't afraid of trouble either. He was here to be a guest, not to be bullied. He was here to support Shin Jingxian, not to be the third grandchild. So Xiao Qin opened his mouth. Although his voice wasn't loud, it was unquestionable. Whether I know medicine or not, it's not up to me to say it. If I don't try, how will I know? Try. You really dare to say it? This time, not only was Tan Mue unhappy, but Shin Jingquan was also unhappy. Jingxian, take your friend out. It's okay to be a guest in the Shin family, but don't wander around. The Shin family is in a critical period now. An outsider shouldn't jump around. Uncle White Fox's medical skills are really amazing. Shin Jingmao was anxious when he heard this. When I was injured, he was the one who cured me. Oh. Shin Jingxin, who had been silent, suddenly said, if that's the case, big brother, why don't I ask him to examine Dad's illness first? If the illness isn't right, then let him go. But what if it's right? Why not give it a try? That's right. In this way, the Shin family won't suffer any loss. Su Luhua also said in agreement. No. If there's a problem, will you take responsibility? Dad's body can't stand being tossed around. If there's a problem, it'll be a big problem. Shin Jingquan shouted. Chapter 453. It's not like there will be any problems. Maybe he really has a way to cure Dad's illness. Shin Jingxin looked at his brother's exasperated look and felt that it was necessary to let this white fox take a look. Previously, the old man's illness was only seen by Medicine Master Tan, and the two medicine masters in the family were both Medicine Master Tan's disciples. Shin Jingxin didn't think much about it before. After all, he didn't know much about medicine. But now that he saw his brother's expression, he couldn't help but wonder if his brother didn't want his father's illness to be cured. If his father really couldn't hold on, then the biggest beneficiary would naturally be Shin Jingquan. So, this illness might be curable, but they joined forces with Medicine Master Tan to say that it was impossible. Second brother, do you have bad intentions? Shin Jingquan said angrily. Stop arguing, I'm not dead yet. Suddenly, a loud roar interrupted the quarrel between the Shin family brothers. The person who spoke was Shin Shanha. He glanced at Shin Jingquan and Shin Jingxin, and both of them lowered their heads in fear. Although Shin Shanha was ill, his prestige was still there. The two of them didn't dare to refute. Since this young man knows medicine, then there's no harm in taking a look. I've lived for so long and I've never heard of a doctor who could kill someone. This is Jingshuan's kindness, so there's no harm in taking a look. Yes. Shin Jingxin quickly said, is it a white fox? Then please let my father take a look. Thank you. Shin Jingquan still wanted to say something, but he didn't. He just snorted heavily and stood aside. Grandpa Shen, then I'll start? Xiao Qin smiled and walked in front of Shin Shanha. He said, I'll help you take your pulse first. Okay, young man, are you also a medicine master? Shin Shanha extended his hand and handed it to Xiao Qin to let him take his pulse. Looking at your technique, you should be a medicine master. Medicine masters nowadays are very rare. I know a little. Xiao Qin smiled as he felt Xin Shanhe's pulse. But after a while, he frowned slightly because Xin Shanhe's pulse was very strange. It was in a mess as if he was about to die. But it didn't seem like it. There seemed to be something in his body that was fighting against it. After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Qin asked, "Grandpa Xin, were you injured when you were young? Isn't that obvious? My dad is a martial artist. How could a martial artist not be injured?" Xin Jingquan heard Xiao Qin's question and immediately jumped up. She pointed at Xiao Qin and said angrily, "Are you a liar?" "That's right. Are you a swindler?" Usually, those doctors in the Jianghu would ask and deceive to find out about the illness. If you don't understand, then don't look at it. Dad, don't listen to this little liar. I will ask my brother to come again tomorrow. He is studying your condition. Maybe he will have a solution. Tan Muwei also followed and said, "Big brother and sister-in-law, can you guys calm down?" Xin Jingxin said, "There is not only pharmacist Tan in this world. I see that this white fox's pulse-feeling technique is very skillful. He should know medicine." Xin Jingquan and Tan Muwei both snorted coldly and turned their heads. Xin Shanhe didn't expect his eldest son and daughter-in-law to be so distrustful of Xiao Qin. They still interrupted when he was diagnosed. He felt a little helpless. If he was healthy, would they dare to do this? When he was doing things, did they have the right to speak? But now he knew that he didn't have long to live. In fact, he didn't care whether Xiao Qin took a look or not. It was just that he couldn't let Xin Jingxian down. His body had always been weak, so he let Xiao Qin have a try. Hearing his question, he thought about it carefully. As a martial artist, he was injured countless times when he was young, so he said, "I have suffered a lot of injuries. May I know where White Fox is referring to?" "Grandpa Xin, the final injury on your body should be concentrated in this place." Xiao Qin pointed. It was Xin Shanhe's liver. The reason why Xiao Qin did this was because he used his Yuan Qi to explore. Old Master Xin's liver meridians were stagnant and blocked, so he should have suffered a very serious internal injury. That's right. Xin Shanhe nodded in surprise. Although he was injured countless times in his life, the injury on the liver was one of the most serious. When he was young, a famous master of the Shen family came to challenge him. He was injured when he accepted the challenge. Although he won and became famous after the battle, establishing his position as the young master of the Shen family, because of the injury, he hadn't fully recovered all these years. It also affected him to break through to a higher realm, so his body wasn't very good. After all, organ damage was very serious even for a martial artist. It's not a secret that my father's liver was injured. Everyone in the Shin family knows it, even outsiders know it. When my father was young, he challenged a famous master of the Shin family. Jingxian must have mentioned this to you, right? My father's injury is old, and it has nothing to do with the problem this time. If you don't have any new theory, then Jingxian, you should take him away. Don't disturb old Master Shin's rest. Xin Jingquan said impatiently. Xin Jingxian looked at Xiao Qin with some expectation, hoping that he could explain. But unexpectedly, Xiao Qin said lightly, "I don't have any ideas for now. I'll go back and think about it." In just a moment, Xiao Qin had already finished talking with the Elder Heaven Ancestor, but the conclusion was not optimistic. Xiao Qin couldn't make a decision at the moment. This may involve some internal problems of the Shin family, so he didn't dare to act rashly. He planned to go back and discuss it with Xin Jingxian and Xin Jinghao. "You see, I said it's useless." Tan Muwei said sarcastically, "Even my brother couldn't use it. What can a young man like him see?" After listening to Xiao Qin's words, Xin Jingxian was a little puzzled. She looked at Xiao Qin strangely. She didn't understand why he didn't continue after asking a question. Instead, he said that he had to go back and think about it. Xin Jingmao was also a little anxious. He looked at Xiao Qin, hoping that he could come up with a solution. But Xiao Qin made a gesture to him, telling him to calm down. "Grandpa Xin, I'm sorry, your problem is a little complicated. I have to go back and think about it carefully. After I think about it, I'll come back and continue to treat you." Xiao Qin said. "What's there to treat? Jingxian, why don't you take him to rest?" Xin Jingquan directly asked. "Hehe, then I'll have to trouble you. White Fox, if you think of it, come over. If I'm not dead, feel free to treat me." Xin Shanhe smiled. Xin Shanhe's words made Xin Jingxuan's face suddenly become a little ugly. At this time, Xin Jingxin said, "Yes, White Fox, if you think of it, come and find me. I'll be here every day." "Okay, then I'll leave first." Xiao Qin nodded and turned to go out. Xin Jingxian and Xin Jingmao said goodbye to Xin Shanhe and left the room. When they left, Xin Shanhe saw that Xin Jingquan wanted to say something, so he closed his eyes directly. He didn't give him a chance to speak and said faintly, "I'm tired. I'm going to rest. You guys can leave." "Yes, father." A few people quickly said yes and left the room. On the way back to Shaoqin, Xin Jingxian couldn't help but ask, "White Fox, do you really have no way?" "Yes, brother White Fox, you're amazing. Do you have no way?" Xin Jingmao also asked anxiously. "We'll talk about it when we get back." Shaoqin glanced at the yard. There were many people here and there might be monitoring devices. Naturally, he wouldn't speak here. "Okay." Xin Jingxian nodded. A few people went all the way back to Xin Jinghao's villa. When they entered the door, Xin Jinghao was anxiously pacing back and forth in the living room. When he saw them come in, he quickly asked, "White Fox, Jingxian Jingmao, how is it? Did you see your grandfather? What did he say?" "I saw him." Uncle and second uncle were arguing non-stop, and White Fox also helped to treat Grandpa. Xin Jingxian said simply. "Oh, treated? Can he be treated?" Xin Jinghao asked eagerly. He was the person who didn't want anything to happen to Xin Shanhe. If Xin Shanhe was fine, the Xin family could follow the previously set trajectory. In other words, Xin Jingmao still had a chance. But once Xin Shanhe was gone, the Xin family would be completely different. Their best fate was to maintain the status quo and run the Xin family's business in Songning City. If it wasn't good, they would be directly kicked out of the family and be no different from ordinary people. Shaoqin glanced around the room. After the incident with Yu Shaochuan, he was very suspicious of whether there was monitoring devices here. However, Xin Jinghao seemed to understand what Shaoqin meant. He shook his head and said, "I have checked personally. The house is safe. Don't worry. I have been guarding against other people in the Xin family monitoring me all these years, so I have my own way of finding these things." "That's good." Shaoqin said, "Grandpa Xin's situation is a bit complicated. From his current condition, he is poisoned." "Poisoned?" As soon as Shaoqin said this, everyone present widened their eyes and exclaimed. Xin Jinghao asked anxiously, "How was he poisoned? Was it by mistake or?" "It's definitely not by mistake. He was poisoned. Someone must have poisoned him." Shaoqin said, "So, I didn't say where I was at that time. I think the suspect of poisoning is there, so that's how it is. What a cruel heart." Xin Jinghao slammed the table angrily. Although he was ambitious and wanted Xin Jingmao to take over, he had never thought of murdering his father. But what about his brothers? They actually poisoned his father? "What? White Fox, can we still save him?" Xin Jingxian quickly asked. "I haven't figured out a way to detoxify it yet." Shaoqin said, "How should I say this? Grandpa Xin's situation is very complicated. It is reasonable to say that he should have died long ago, but by coincidence he didn't die." Chapter 454. What do you mean? Xin Jingxian was a little unhappy when she heard Shaoqin's words. "My grandfather is blessed. How is he supposed to die a long time ago?" Jingxian listened to Hero White Fox first. "Hero White Fox, tell me who poisoned him." Xin Jinghao frowned and asked. "Is there a need to ask? It must be Uncle's family." At this moment, Xin Jingmao directly said, "When Big Brother White Fox was treating Grandpa, they kept stopping him. Moreover, Auntie's brother is a pharmacist and has treated Grandpa several times. Is it possible that he didn't notice that Grandpa was poisoned?" "So was Big Brother." Xin Jinghao said fiercely, "You're really vicious and pretentious. Hero White Fox, you have to help us this time. Otherwise, once the old man is gone, the next person they'll deal with will definitely be me. It is certain that Medicine Master Tan could see that Grandpa was poisoned. As long as it is not a bad medicine master, anyone can see it." Shaoqin waved his hand and continued, "However, it's not easy to tell what kind of poison, how many poisons, and why he didn't die after being poisoned. If Shaoqin didn't have Yuan Qi and the Elder Heaven Ancestor, he wouldn't be able to see it. But with this set of alloy fingers he could see the truth." "How many poisons? How many poisons did he use?" Xin Jinghao was shocked. "It shouldn't be him. I guess there is more than one person." Shaoqin said, "That's because both of these poisons are highly toxic. There's no need to use two at the same time. Most importantly, these two poisons are fighting poison with poison. They're restraining each other and counteracting each other. If I'm not mistaken, Medicine Master Tan must be wondering why Grandpa Xin hasn't passed away yet." "What do you mean? Someone poisoned him?" Xin Jinghao asked. "Correct, one of the poisons is very difficult to detect. Even an apothecary wouldn't be able to detect it. But I'm not an apothecary, I'm an adept, so I can detect it. Xiaochen said, if my guess is correct, both Xin Jingquan and Xin Jingxin were poisoned. However, Xin Jingxuan's poison can be detected, but Xin Jingxin's poison cannot. Xin Jinghao, Xin Jingxian, and Xin Jingmao were stunned when they heard Xiaochen's analysis. They didn't expect there to be such an inside story. Then, what do we do now? Will something happen to my father? Xin Jinghao said, White Fox Hero, do you have any idea? We can't let Xin Jingquan and Xin Jingxin's scheme succeed. It's very troublesome. The two poisons cancel each other out, but even if they cancel each other out, he should have died long ago. Xiaochen explained, then the question is, why is Grandpa Xin still fine? What? Xin Jinghao asked with his eyes wide open. Because in his early years, his liver was seriously injured, and the nearby meridians were stagnant. These two poisons are concentrated in the liver, so the poison is in the liver. Because the nearby meridians are stagnant, the spread of the poison is slower. In this way Grandpa Xin survived until now. Xiaochen said, however, it's very troublesome to solve it. These two poisons, if one is cured, the other will definitely take effect, but I can't think of a way to cure both at the same time. So that's how it is. Xin Jinghao fell into deep thought. The expression on his face was helpless and angry, but there was no way. Dad, let's go to Grandpa and expose him. Xin Jingmao said angrily. He didn't expect his uncle and second uncle to be so ruthless. Don't. Xin Jinghao and Xiaochen stopped him almost at the same time. Xin Jinghao looked at White Fox with some surprise and said, You first? Uncle Xin should say it first. Xiaochen smiled. Jingmao, you don't have any evidence now. If you go and say it, who will believe it? Your uncle and second uncle are ruthless. I'm afraid they will do something bad to you. Xin Jinghao said, These things can't be believed just because you say it. Yes, the most important thing is that even if Grandpa Xin believes it, it won't do him any good. People with a bad liver can't get angry. If they get angry, it will accelerate the effect of the poison in the liver, and the time they can hold on will be shorter. At that time, I'm afraid. Xiaochen didn't continue, but he believed that Xin Jingmao should understand. Xin Jingmao lowered his head. His character was a bit impulsive, but he was not a fool. After his father and Xiaochen said this, he immediately understood that his approach was not realistic. White Fox, then, can you think of a way? Xin Jingxian asked with some pleading. Yes. Xiaochen nodded. You. Xin Jingxian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'll try my best, but this situation is too complicated. Xiaochen planned to calm down and study with the Elder Heaven Ancestor. He wasn't very good at medical skills, but the Elder Heaven Ancestor was different. Good. Then I'll first send you to the guest room to rest. Xin Jingxian also knew that she and Xiaochen weren't engaged after all. If they lived together, it would cause criticism from the Xin family. It was better to let Xiaochen live alone. Xiaochen felt a little helpless. He had thought that he would be able to stay with Goddess Xin, but now his dream had been shattered. However, he did not insist. A guest should follow the host's wishes. He and Xin Jingxian came to a small house next to the villa. This was obviously a place for guests to stay, but they were not high-class guests. From the scale of the renovation, it should be specially provided for the distant relatives of the Xin family. After all, the house was built in the courtyard. Since he was already here, Xiaochen moved in. He roughly checked the room, but there were no surveillance cameras or listening devices. He thought that the Xin family wouldn't be so bored as to monitor a guest like him. Besides, he came here at the last minute, and the Xin family didn't prepare for it. Elder Heaven Ancestor, do you have a way? As soon as Xiaochen returned to the room, he hurriedly communicated with the Elder Heaven Ancestor. After all, Xiaochen didn't want anything to happen to Xin Jingxian. It could be seen that Xin Jingxian and her grandfather had a good relationship. She was very concerned about her grandfather's illness, so how could Xiaochen help? He would definitely help. I don't have a way yet. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, Xiaochen, I'm not a prop for you to pick up girls. Do you think I'm Doraemon, asking me everything? Xiaochen was a little speechless. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you and I are master and disciple. Why do we have to be so clear? I'll help you fulfill your dream in the future. When I'm powerful, I'll do whatever you want me to do. That's more like it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, All right, I'll think about it. However, his situation is very complicated and I might not be able to figure it out. If you were an expert in the foundation establishment stage, it would be a piece of cake to cure this poison. However, you're in the qi refinement stage now. Even if you're in the 10th level of the Qi refinement stage, you're still far from the foundation establishment stage. Alright, then I'll have to trouble Elder Heaven Ancestor, Xiaoqin nodded and said. Xiaoqin settled down here for the time being, but the villa far away in Songning City was already in an uproar. Squatting in front of the flower bed, Yi Xiaoya widened her eyes and watched someone pluck a devil grass fruit. After a long time, she finally stormed into the villa angrily and yelled at Qing Minjing and Jin Beibei who were having breakfast. Did you touch my flower bed? Qing Minjing looked at Yi Xiaoya confusedly. Jin Beibei on the other hand said disdainfully, Cousin Minjing, this person must be sick. She didn't take good care of her own flower bed, and she asked other people whether they touched it or not. What? Have the weeds you planted withered? I didn't touch it. Qing Minjing merely shook her head. Yi Xiaoya, don't talk to me like that. I don't owe you anything. Even if I did touch it, the flower bed is the public property of the villa. What can you do? Fine. So, it was you who touched it? Yi Xiaoya said anxiously. Don't you understand what I'm talking about? I told you they didn't touch it. Qing Minjing frowned and ignored her. She continued to eat her breakfast. Yi Xiaoya was a little upset. The devil grass fruit was still there when she watered and fertilized it last night. Why was it gone this morning? It must be noted that the devil grass fruit was very difficult to grow. Yi Xiaoya had gone through a lot of trouble to grow 2 of them, which were of great use to her. However, one of them had been lost out of nowhere. How could she not be anxious? Are there any surveillance cameras in this villa? Asked Yi Xiaoya. You are the first tenant to live here. Why are you asking me? Qing Minjing snapped. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because I can't argue with you. Beibei is often stationed here now. I'm not joking. I really lost one of my herbs. It's very important to me. Yi Xiaoya also knew that her tone had been a little rude due to her anxiety. Therefore she said sincerely, Minjing, Beibei, did you really not see it? We just woke up. Qing Minjing rolled her eyes. What about Jingxian and Xiaoqin? Asked Yi Xiaoya. Something happened to Jingshuan's family. They left last night. Qing Minjing said, if you think your herbs are important, you can sleep in a tent next to them. Alright, we have to go to school. After that, Qing Minjing and Jin Beibei left the villa together. They got into Jin Beibei's car and drove to school. Meanwhile, Yi Xiaoya was pacing back and forth in front of the flower bed gloomily. However, her phone suddenly rang. She had received a push notification from the Warrior Guild. Yi Xiaoya took a look. It turned out to be a mission for warriors near Songning City. Yi Xiaoya browsed through it. Not only did the mission reward points, but there was also a physical reward. It was to explore the ruins of an ancient sect. There are ruins of an ancient sect near Songning City? Really? Yi Xiaoya looked at the push notification in her hand curiously. With the development of technology, the ruins of some sects were not as difficult to find as before. Chapter 455. Looking for the ruins of the ancient sects was something that all the sects and families were passionate about. In the ruins of the ancient sects, there might be a lot of cultivation resources. There might even be some heaven-defying mantras. Whichever sect or family was able to obtain them would have a great increase in strength. However, with the satellite map, it was much easier to find the ruins of the ancient sections. That was why Yi Xiaoya was puzzled. There were ruins of the ancient sects nearby? Why didn't the people in the past discover it? Moreover, how could there be ruins of the ancient sects in the vicinity of such a densely populated city? Thinking of this, Yi Xiaoya couldn't help but click on the push message curiously. I found the ruins of an ancient sect near Songning City. Now I'm gathering experts above the 5th stage of inner strength to explore and excavate it together. After entering the ruins, the treasures obtained can be exchanged for points or distributed equally according to the number of people. I won't take more. It's fair and reasonable. If anyone is interested, please contact me. Don't disturb me if you are below the 5th stage of inner strength. The message was very simple, but it revealed a lot of information. That was, the relic should be near Songning City, but the specific location was not mentioned. Songning City was a relatively large city. It was absolutely impossible to have the relic of an ancient sect in this city. It must be in the surrounding small cities and counties. However, this person did not elaborate. He was afraid that if he said too much, someone would search for it on their own without bringing him, the initiator. However, in the Warrior Guild, experts above the 5th stage of inner strength were rare. 3rd stage or 4th stage was already an extraordinary existence. After all, the local Warrior Guild didn't have many experts, and the experts of those families rarely went to the Warrior Guild to do the mission. This push message made Yi Xiaoya a little tempted. Even if she came from a big sect, who would complain about those cultivation resources? Moreover, the Devil Star sect was actually a relatively small sect in the Devil sect. Their resources were still very limited. After thinking about it, Yi Xiaoya forwarded this mission to the White Fox and said, "Are you interested?" Just as Xiao Qin finished his conversation with the Elder Heaven Ancestor, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that there were actually 3 push notifications, which surprised him. The Warrior Guild's client rarely had push notifications, and it was usually Yi Xiaoya talking to him. Now that there were 3 of them, could it be that Yu Xiaochuan was also looking for him? But that shouldn't be the case. Ever since Yu Xiaochuan found out his true identity, he didn't use the Warrior Guild's app to contact him anymore. He opened it and saw that it was the same as what Yi Xiaoya had received. It was a piece of news about the exploration of the ancient sect ruins for the martial artists near Songning City. Xiao Qin glanced at it and his heart moved slightly. He didn't know why, but he suddenly thought of the immortal resort in Jiduan City. Behind the resort there was a back mountain. The spiritual energy in the back mountain was obviously not in line with the law. It was richer than other places. Could it be that the ancient ruins were there? However, Xiao Qin was only guessing. After all, even if he knew, it would be useless. With his strength alone, it would be difficult to find the entrance. When he was in the Xiao family, Xiao Qin had more or less heard about the ancient ruins, but it was a legendary existence. He heard that it required a lot of martial artists to explore together. There were many traps and dangers inside, and many people never returned. But that was also because the people who went to explore were not strong enough. Now that Xiao Qin had the strength close to the peak of Inner Force Stage 9, it shouldn't be a big problem for him to explore. Because Xiao Qin was in Lan City, he temporarily put this message aside and started to look at the second message. The second message was from a stranger, but this stranger's name was familiar to Xiao Qin. It was a person called Claydin, which was obviously a code name. After thinking about it, other than Claydin University, Xiao Qin couldn't seem to stop talking about this person. Wait. Xiao Qin suddenly returned to the first message and saw that the person who published the ancient sect ruins was this Claydin. This made Xiao Qin a little surprised. Why did this person send him a private message? Returning to the private message, Xiao Qin saw the message. The thing you want is actually the spiritual jade, right? I know where to find this thing. You should have also seen the task entrusted by me. Yes, in the ruins of the ancient sect there should be spiritual jades, and there is definitely some. In every ancient sect ruins, there will be more or less spiritual jades. I saw that your mission completion rate is 100%, so I really want to work with you. How about it, are you interested? Xiao Qin took a deep breath. It seemed that his previous mission had attracted Claydin. However, Xiao Qin didn't reply immediately. Instead, he opened the third message. This message was sent by Yi Xiaoya. White Fox, take a look at this mission. Are you interested? If you are, let's sign up together. At least we can look after each other. Xiao Qin was a little surprised. He hadn't expected Yi Xiaoya to be interested in this mission. After thinking about it, he replied, "Sure, let's go together. However, Claydin has already sent me a private message. I'll check it out first." "Alright, if it's real then we'll sign up." Yi Xiaoya's reply came quickly. Xiao Qin replied to Claydin, "Really? If I go, will all the spiritual jade in the ruins belong to me?" After sending the message, there was no immediate reply. He didn't know if Claydin was hesitant or didn't see it. After a while, there was a reply. "Are you an expert above stage 5 inner force? If there are only 1 or 2 spiritual jades in the ruins, you don't want anything else?" "Yes, I don't want anything else," Xiao Qin replied readily. "Alright, I don't have any problems on my side. When the time comes, I'll speak to the others as the initiator. If no one objects, then it's fine," Claydin replied. "I have 2 experts above stage 5 inner force on my side. They want to participate, but I'm not sure what she wants. We'll talk about it when the time comes," Xiao Qin said. "Sure. Send me the ID of the Warrior Guild." "I'll record it down," Claydin said. "Yi Xiaoya, White Fox." Xiao Qin sent it over. "When we have more than 5 people, we can set off. I'll let you know when the time comes. By the way, are you free in the near future?" Claydin asked. "Not for the next few days. I have something to do outside." "It should be fine in a few days," Xiao Qin said. "Definitely not for the next few days. Even if we have enough people, I still have to make preparations." "Just in time, we'll contact each other then," Claydin said. Xiao Qin replied with, "Okay," and told Yi Xiaoya about it. Yi Xiaoya said that she understood and waited for White Fox to come back. After Xin Jingxian and the others left, Tan Muwei also left Shin Shanha's courtyard and returned to her own villa. Shin Jingquan went to deal with the affairs of the Shin family, and Tan Muwei secretly called her brother Tan Muyo. Although the Tan family was currently in the limelight, with her brother being the chief apothecary of Lan City's warrior market and her sister marrying into the Shin family, both of them knew that it was only temporary. If a family wanted to pass on its legacy, it would be impossible without a solid foundation. The marriage between the Tan family and the Shin family would only end in this generation. It was true that Tan Muyo was an apothecary, but he was not a warrior. His lifespan was the same as an ordinary person. If he died, then so be it. The glory of the Tan family would no longer exist. Therefore, the marriage of the next generation of the Tan family became the most important. Tan Muyo had a son called Tan Jita, who was also Tan Muwei's nephew. When he was young, he attended the Shin family's banquets. At that time, he had taken a fancy to Shin Jingxian and had been thinking about her all these years. Although Tan Jita, who was self-proclaimed as one of the 4 young masters of Lan City, had played with many women after his father's rise in status, how could those vulgar women compare to Shin Jingxian? When he was free, he would ask his aunt when Shin Jingxian would return to the Shin family so that he could visit her. Tan Muwei also wanted to facilitate this matter. After all, if Tan Jita and Shin Jingxian got married, then the Tan family could at least continue to exist in the upper class. Tan Muwei's thinking was very simple. If Shin Jingxian agreed to the marriage, then she would make the decision and let Shin Jinghao and his family continue to stay in the Shin family. In her eyes, the person who would get to the top was either her husband or her son. It was impossible for anyone else. "Little sister, how is it? Why did you call me? Is that old thing dying?" Tan Muyo asked. "Don't mention it. That old thing is not dying. What's going on?" Tan Muwei was also a little puzzled. Logically speaking, old Master Shin should have died long ago. It was impossible for him to hold on until now. Do the herbs you gave him have the effect of curing poison? How is that possible? Those are just some tonics. They have no effect on curing poison and illness. Tan Muyo said, "This old thing may be a warrior. His physical fitness is good. Let's wait a little longer. We can't rush this. Anyway, it's a matter of time." "That's true." Tan Muwei nodded. She was indeed the one who poisoned Shin Shanha because she couldn't wait any longer. If this old thing didn't die, her husband and son would never be able to get to the top. If this dragged on, it was hard to say whether there would be variables in the future. So she took the risk. "By the way, you called me for this?" Tan Muyo asked. "Also, is Tan Jita at home?" Tan Muwei asked. "He went out last night and hasn't woken up yet. I'll call him for you." After Tan Muyo finished speaking, she yelled at her room. After a while, Tan Jita's confused voice came from the other side of the phone. "Aunt, are you looking for me?" "Shin Jingxian is back." Tan Muwei said, "Get ready to visit the Shin family and propose marriage. Now your uncle is in charge of the family. If things are done properly, there will be no problem." Chapter 456. Really? Jingxian is back? The voice on the other end of the line, which was originally a little muddled, suddenly rose an octave and became incomparably spirited. "Aunt, what should I do? Should I go now?" "Tonight. Get ready and dress up. Come with your father and bring some gifts. Then I will help you settle the matter," Tan Muwei said. She didn't care about White Fox at all. These big families all followed the patriarchal system. The head of the family had the highest authority, and so did the acting head. Therefore, in her opinion, it was not a problem to arrange a marriage for Shin Jingxian. White Fox could go back to where it came from. "Okay, I understand. Thank you, Aunt," Tan Kita said happily. He couldn't help but lick his lips when he thought of Shin Jingxian. "Well, behave well," Tan Muwei reminded him. Previously, the marriage between Shin Jingxian and the Qin family was approved by old Master Shin. However, after the Qin family brothers died, Shin Jingshuan's matter was temporarily put on hold. As for White Fox, Shin Jinghao didn't have time to tell old Master Shin. He originally planned to give everyone a surprise when his second grandpa came out of seclusion. Therefore, Tan Muwei took the opportunity and ran over to inform Tan Kita of the news. "Don't worry, Aunt. No matter what, I am one of the 4 young masters of Lan City. I am handsome and elegant," Tan Kita said confidently. Tan Muwei hung up the phone and sneered. White Fox, an outsider who came from nowhere, wanted to get involved in the Shin family's matter. Tonight she would let him see the difference between them. Then he would get lost as soon as possible. What kind of background and ability could a guy who didn't dare to show his real face have? Xiao Chen's lunch was sent by the Shin family's servants. Obviously, the Shin family didn't want to treat him to a meal. Shin Jinghao's family didn't have a high status in the Shin family, so the Shin family didn't specially welcome them. Like Xiao Chen, they ate fast food sent by the Shin family's servants. At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a disciple of the Shin family came to report that an important guest had come to the Shin family. He asked Shin Jinghao's family and the White Fox to go over together. This made Xiao Chen a little puzzled. What did the guest of the Shin family have to do with him? However, it didn't matter if he accompanied Shin Jingxian. As soon as Xiao Chen went out, he saw Shin Jingxian and the others coming out. Xiao Chen went up to them. White Fox, I'm sorry. I don't have a high status in the Shin family. My father doesn't have the final say. I'm sorry to have neglected you. Shin Jingxian said to Xiao Chen apologetically. That's okay. There are too many problems in the Shin family. We can only take it one step at a time. Xiao Chen wanted to solve the problem of Shin Shanhe first. Only when Shin Shanhe was fine could the other problems be solved. Otherwise, even if Xiao Chen helped Shin Jingmao get the position of the young master with violence, so what? Don't forget that there was still a key figure in the Shin family. That was Shin Jingshuan's second grandfather. It was said that he was a master among masters. Even if Xiao Chen could suppress these people, he was probably not a match for the second grandfather. The few of them went all the way to the first floor of the Shin family's villa. It was a large living room. At this time, 2 men, one old and one young, were sitting on the sofa. They were chatting happily with Tan Muwei and Shin Jingquan. When he saw Shin Jingxian and the others enter, the young man's eyes lit up and he stood up. On the other hand, Tan Muwei turned around with a smile and said, Jingxian, you're here. Look who's here. Tan Kita? Shin Jingxian was slightly stunned. She knew Tan Kita, but she didn't have much contact with him. After all, he was a relative of the first branch. She rarely went back to the Shin family. Yes, Kita's father is my elder brother. He's your eldest uncle. Today he came to continue to treat Dad. When Kita heard that you're back, he also came and bought you a lot of gifts. Tan Muwei said. Shin Jingxian was a little unhappy. She knew that Tan Kita had some bad intentions towards her. He had shown it before. She didn't expect that he would not give up. It seemed that the news of her coming back was leaked by Tan Muwei. No wonder she didn't agree when she heard that she had a boyfriend. It was because of Tan Kita. Although she was unhappy, Shin Jingxian had to smile and greet them. Eldest uncle, cousin Kita, you're here. However, Shin Jingxian deliberately pointed out that they were relatives. Tan Kita was her cousin, so there was no need to think about other things. Tan Kita's eyes flashed with a touch of excitement when he saw Shin Jingxian. He said with a smile, Jingxian, long time no see. You've become more beautiful. You deserve to be my goddess since I was a child. You're always so radiant. In fact, Tan Kita was a man with a very good appearance. At the moment he was wearing a decent suit. He had a handsome face and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He looked gentle and refined. At first glance, one could tell that he had an extraordinary background. Judging from his appearance alone, he was indeed a very handsome man. However, Xiao Chen's 6 senses were very strong. He could tell at a glance that Tan Kita's complexion was not good. It was obvious that he had overindulged. Wine and women were necessities of his life. He might also have taken some drugs. However, this guy was a warrior. These things were hidden very well. It was not to the extent that it would affect his health and strength. Of course, it was also because he was young. If he was older, there would inevitably be some problems. Really? Shin Jingxian did not want to be entangled with Tan Kita, so she introduced him directly. This is my boyfriend, White Fox. He came back with me this time. White Fox, this is my cousin Tan Kita. Play the guitar? Xiao Chen was stunned. What's your relationship with playing the chicken? Tan Kita is my younger brother. What's wrong? Do you know him? Tan Kita was also stunned. He looked at Xiao Chen inexplicably. He thought, could this person be an acquaintance? It's fine. Xiao Chen was speechless. This family was full of weirdos. This name is too funny. Oh. Tan Kita was a bit inexplicable. He nodded to Xiao Chen and reached out his hand. He said, White Fox, right? Did we know each other before? Or do you know my younger brother? Ahem. Tan Muyao's face slightly changed. The White Fox was wearing a mask so no one could see his emotions. Therefore, it was easy for people to misunderstand his real meaning. However, Tan Muyao was old and shrewd. Thinking about the tone of the White Fox, she knew that it was not a good thing. Therefore, she scolded Tan Kita. Kita, he doesn't know your brother. He is just joking with you. Just joking. Tan Kita nodded. He did not expect Xiao Chen to scold him. After all, Xiao Chen's expression could not be seen through the mask. He still said politely, "In Lan City I Tan Kita, am still very useful. White Fox, if you have any problems you can look for me. I'll help you settle it." Where does White Fox work? In fact, what Tan Kita said before was nonsense. The last sentence was what he wanted to ask. He was a bit unsure about White Fox's background. "I'm Jingshuan's classmate." Xiao Chen shook hands with him and said casually, "I'm just a student. Where else can I work?" Oh. Tan Kita let out a sigh of relief at once. He understood clearly, so he's just a student? Then he doesn't have any background. In the schools of the secular world, the most powerful students are just the children of those aristocratic families. But compared with the Shin family, they are too far behind. Of course, they can't compare with the son of the chief pharmacist. Of course, Tan Kita was also a smart person. He disdained Xiao Chen's identity in his heart, but he was still very warm on the surface. He knew that Shin Jingxian was a cheerful and generous person. She hated those petty tricks. Therefore he could plot against Xiao Chen behind his back, but he still looked very warm on the surface. "Jingxian and I are childhood sweethearts. You're Jingshuan's classmate, so you're also my friend. How about it? Do you have time? I'll take you around Lan City and give me a chance to play host," Tan Kita said warmly. "Forget it." Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "I'm accompanying Jingxian. Now that Grandpa Shin is seriously ill in bed, it's not good for me to go sightseeing. It's better for me to stay here quietly." After listening to Xiao Chen's words, Tan Kita was even more sure that he was not a member of a big family. If he was a member of a very powerful family, he would usually be very arrogant. How could he abide by the rules of the Shin family? He guessed that he was just an ordinary classmate of Shin Jingxian. He did not know how he got the favor of Shin Jingxian. However, this kind of relationship was very fragile. As long as he gave him some benefits, it would not be difficult to get him. The only thing that puzzled Tan Kita was, why was this White Fox wearing a mask? Was he ashamed to meet people? It doesn't matter. We can't stop living because of Grandpa Shin's illness, right? Tan Kita said with a smile, "I believe that Jingxian will understand, and so will the Shin family." "Yes, White Fox. Since you are a guest of the Shin family, it's not suitable to take you out to play with the Shin family's current situation. However, since Kita has the heart, let him take you around," Shin Jingquan said. He was now the person in charge of the Shin family, so he naturally represented the Shin family when he spoke. "Okay, let's talk about it later," Xiao Chen casually replied and did not take it to heart. If it was said that Tan Kita was sincerely inviting him out to play, even Xiao Chen himself would not believe it. This guy was obviously interested in Shin Jingxian. How could he treat him with sincerity? However, because of Shin Jingshuan's reputation, Xiao Chen did not directly refute Shin Jingquan. "Dad, let's go and see Grandpa Shin together," Tan Kita said. "Okay, Jingquan, is old Shin awake? Can we go and see him now?" Tan Muiao asked. "It should be about time." Shin Jingquan nodded and said, "Let's go up together." Then these people went upstairs together to see Shin Shanha. On the way, Tan Kita was still talking to Xiao Chen. "White Fox, why are you wearing a mask?" "Oh, it's the mental cultivation method that I practice. It can't be exposed to light," Xiao Chen said. Chapter 457. "Oh, you are also a martial artist?" Tan Kita was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to be a martial artist. "Then you should not be an ordinary student, right? Which family are you from?" "I'm not from a family," Xiao Chen said. "Then you are a rogue cultivator. It is not easy to be a rogue cultivator." After Tan Kita heard this, his heart calmed down. "Then what is your strength now?" "Not much strength, still very weak," Xiao Chen said. There was still a certain distance to reach the foundation stage. Practicing martial arts is indeed very tiring. Look at me, I'm already a martial artist at the 6th layer of inner strength. However, this is also thanks to my father being the chief pharmacist of the Lan City martial artists market. He often refines medicinal liquids and pills for me. Tan Kita said until here. He was probably a few steps behind the group in front of him. Then he directly asked, "White Fox, let's not beat around the bush. You like Jingxian, right?" Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Tan Kita to suddenly ask this. But he quickly replied, "I am her boyfriend. Naturally I like her. Why do you ask?" "Very well, to be honest, I like her too." Tan Kita looked at Xiao Chen and said honestly, "Of course, I heard that Jingxian is the goddess of the masses, so it's normal for you to like her. But have you ever thought about it? Marriage is about matching families. In order to ensure their own prosperity, big families will marry families that match their family's status. Even if there is a gap, it will not be too big. The Shin family is a martial arts family. So, the marriage of the children of the Shin family is a very serious issue. Oh, and then? Xiaoqin nodded and asked. You still don't understand what I mean? Tanjita was a little depressed. How can this guy not understand what I'm talking about? It was already so obvious and he still asked me then? I understand. So, you are saying that I am not good enough for Shin Jingshin? Xiaoqin laughed. It seems like you understand. That's good. Tanjita breathed a sigh of relief. Talking to smart people is really refreshing. Since you are also a martial artist, then I won't say anything else. How about this, you break up with Jingshin, I can give you some cultivation resources that you can't even imagine. I'm not interested. Cultivation is just my side job, Xiaoqin said. What do you mean? What's your main profession? Tanjita was slightly taken aback. Of course, my main job is to woo Goddess Shun, Xiaoqin said with a smile. Tanjita almost choked to death on his own saliva. He stared at Xiaoqin with widened eyes. After a while he said, Brat, don't be so shameless. Who do you think you are? Believe it or not, I can make sure that you won't be able to leave Lan City alive. What? Since you can't entice me, you're starting to threaten me? Xiaoqin said coldly, do you think that the warrior guild won't care if you kill people indiscriminately? You're right. My father is the chief apothecary of Lan City's warrior market. Even the president of Lan City's warrior guild needs my father's help. Tanjita said arrogantly, moreover, do you think that I will leave any evidence if I kill you? So if I don't agree I will die, right? Xiaoqin asked in return. You can understand it that way. Tanjita said proudly. Alright, I don't want to live anymore. Xiaoqin finished speaking and walked away quickly. Damn it, this brat can't be thinking that I'm joking, right? Looking at Xiaoqin leaving in a carefree manner, as if he was not threatened at all, Tanjita was a little depressed. He shook his head and said, it seems that these loose cultivators still think that the martial arts world is the same as the secular world, where people can't be killed indiscriminately. When they arrived at Shinshanha's room, Tan Muyo pretended to take Shinshanha's pulse, then said worriedly, the old man's problem doesn't seem to be getting better. He should be getting old and his body is failing. In this kind of situation, even a deity would be powerless to save him. Thank you, Xiaotan. I understand my own problem. It's rare for you to come over and take my pulse whenever you're free. Shinshanha thanked him. Old Shin, you're too polite. Because of Xiao Wei, I'm considered your junior. As a junior, I naturally have to be more attentive. Moreover, I'm an apothecary. Tan Muyo said this and sighed, I can only blame myself for not being skilled in medicine. There's nothing I can do. Haha, I've already gotten over it. It doesn't matter. Shinshanha smiled and said, I'm just worried about the Shin family. When Shin Jingquan heard this, he suddenly felt uncomfortable in his heart. He secretly cursed, you old fart. You've held the power of the family for so many years, yet you don't know how to give up your position. Choosing a young master requires a comprehensive examination. You don't even care about me, the eldest son. In fact, Shinshanha did not decide on the heir of the family. It was also out of consideration for the future of the Shin family. The Shin family was for the capable. Shinshanha knew that this was the only way to ensure the prosperity of the family. Actually, I still have a last resort. When Tan Muyo said this, his words paused as if he wanted to say something but stopped. Brother, what else is there? Tell me quickly. As long as it can cure father's illness, it's not a problem no matter how difficult and troublesome it is. Tan Muyo said quickly. Xiaoqin looked coldly at Tan Muyo and Tan Muyo, who were putting on a show. Xiaoqin was almost sure that Shinshanha's illness was caused by them. Now they were still putting on a show in front of him. It was really disgusting. However, before Xiaoqin thought of a solution, it was not bad to watch them put on a show. When Gita was young, I took him to a master to teach him pharmacology and knowledge of medicinal properties, but this kid's mind was not on pharmacists. He liked to practice martial arts and later became a warrior. Tan Muyo said, and his master has now become a famous pharmacist. He now works in the Warriors Market of the Warriors Guild headquarters. Now he has become the chief pharmacist of the Warriors Guild headquarters. If he is willing to come forward to treat him, there is still a glimmer of hope. Then hurry up and find that powerful pharmacist. Tan Muyo said quickly. The brother and sister were so well coordinated that they could even act in a movie. My personal relationship with him is not that good. In the past I just asked a friend to take Gita as a master. After all, Gita doesn't listen to me. I taught him but he didn't listen. So I thought of finding someone for him. Tan Muyo said, however, Gita and his master have been in contact all these years. If Gita comes forward, it is still possible to invite him. Then what are you waiting for? Gita, call your powerful master and ask him to help treat your grandpa Shin. Tan Muwei said. And I want to. Tan Gita said with a wry smile, do you think I didn't call him before? However, people at my master's level rarely meddle in other people's business. He will refuse ordinary people who look for him. Otherwise, there are countless people looking for him every day. He doesn't need to do anything else. He can't deal with these people who ask him for help. Aren't you his disciple? There should be no problem, right? Tan Muwei said. I have no problem. But the affairs of the Shin family are not my business. Tan Gita explained helplessly, you know, in fact, I have no direct relationship with the Shin family. And my master can't interfere with such things just because my aunt married into the Shin family. He will only interfere if I have a relationship with the Shin family. Think about it, if everyone who knows him asks him for help on behalf of their relatives and friends, wouldn't he be too busy? So my master made a rule that even if it's an acquaintance, it can only be his own business. Other than that, he will not come out of the mountain. Then it's difficult. Tan Muwei was a little disappointed. At this time, Shin Jingquan said, in fact, it's not impossible. I know that Gita has always liked Jingxian. They are childhood sweethearts. How about this, if they get engaged, then the affairs of the Shin family will be Gita's business. Jingxian, are you willing to marry Gita for your grandpa? Shin Jingxuan's face turned red. She wasn't good at scheming, but even if she wasn't good at it at this time, she understood that Tan Muyo, Tan Muwei, Tan Jita, and Shin Jingquan were all acting. In the end, their goal was the matter between her and Tan Jita. Jingxian, do you want to see your grandpa go on like this? Tan Muwei questioned. Don't you have any filial piety? Why are you still hesitating? In my opinion, it's just a formality whether they have a relationship or not. How about letting Tan Gita recognize Elder Shin as his foster grandpa? Isn't that fine? Xiao Qin said indifferently, the affairs of the foster grandpa are Tan Gita's own business. Will his master not help him? How can it be the same? Foster grandpa is not reliable at all. Tan Muwei said, it's just talk. It can't be proven. Why should he help him, right, Gita? Of course. Tan Gita nodded and said, but if Jingxian is my wife, then there will be no problem. At that time, Medicine Master Ji will definitely come forward to help. Jingxian, what do you think? Shin Jingquan looked at Shin Jingxian and asked, then looked at Shin Jinghao. Jinghao, what do you think about this? Shin Jingmao clenched his fists at the side. There were a few times when he wanted to flare up, but he knew that the Shin family would not tolerate his impudence. There was no place for him to speak and no one would listen to him. Alright, don't make things difficult for the child. At this moment, Shin Shanha suddenly said, I know my own problem. Even if another pharmacist came, it would be difficult to cure my problem. Let's not talk about this anymore. Hearing Shin Shanha's words, the room immediately quieted down. Tan Muwei was a little unwilling, but there was nothing she could do. She could only wait until she went downstairs to persuade Shin Jingxian and Shin Jinghao. Chapter 458. Okay, I'm tired. I'm going to rest. You guys can leave now. Shin Shanha gasped for breath. He looked tired and closed his eyes. Obviously, he was disappointed with the children of the Shin family. Although he was sick, he wasn't confused. He was clear about the little tricks that Tan Muwei and Tan Muyo used, but their reasons were high-sounding, so he couldn't say anything. Moreover, he didn't want to die, but he had no choice. However, if he had to sacrifice the happiness of the younger generation, he would rather not do it. He was a selfless person. For the sake of the Shin family, he could give up a lot. The current situation was a little out of control. Every day, the fight between the first branch and the second branch exhausted him mentally and physically. Now Shin Jingxian was involved. Shin Shanha was really a little tired. The people in the room left the room, went downstairs and returned to the living room again. At this time, the atmosphere was a little silent. Jinghao, think about what I said before. Shin Jingquan said to Shin Jinghao directly. She didn't put Xiao Qin in her eyes at all. She directly treated him as heir. For the sake of the Shin family, this marriage is good for both you and me. I can guarantee that if you agree, your branch will stay in the Shin family, and you will be responsible for the Shin family's affairs. Shin Jingxuan's condition made Shin Jinghao slightly stunned. However, he had seen the power of White Fox. At this moment, although he didn't know why White Fox had been enduring, he couldn't agree to Xin Jingxuan's condition. Moreover, his ambition wasn't small. He wanted Xin Jingmao to be the next leader. He wasn't satisfied with just staying in the Xin family. If that happened, all his previous efforts would be in vain. There's nothing to think about. I respect Jingxuan's decision, Xin Jinghao said coldly. His words surprised Xiaoqin. Xin Jinghao shouldn't be such a loyal person, but he probably saw that Xiaoqin was much stronger than Tangita. However, he couldn't say anything in this situation. After all, no one would believe him if he boasted about how awesome the White Fox was. Xin Jinghao left the villa with Xin Jingxian, Xin Jingmao and Xiaoqin. Xin Jingquan looked at their backs and a trace of gloom flashed across his eyes. Although he was the acting family head now, his words didn't have any effect, which made him very angry. Uncle-in-law? Tangita looked at Xin Jingxuan's back as he left, and a greedy look flashed across his eyes. This matter? It doesn't matter. You can pursue him normally. As for that White Fox, if you can't do it, use some tricks to kill him. As long as he's dead, everything will be easy. Xin Jingquan did not put Xiaoqin in her eyes at all. I understand, Tangita said with a sinister smile. Xin Jingxian and the others returned to their villa, while Xiaoqin returned to his guest room. After returning, there was nothing else to do, so he began to brew the medicinal liquid. Xiaoqin was used to brewing the medicinal liquid at night, and the devil centipede fruit just happened to be effective. Who knew that just as he finished brewing the electric clay pot, the doorbell would ring? Xiaoqin thought that it was the Xin family's servant who came to deliver dinner, but when he opened the door, it wasn't. There was nothing in the person's hands. Who are you looking for? Xiaoqin asked in puzzlement. Mr. White Fox? The Xin family disciple at the door said, Old Master Xin asked me to look for you alone. I'm his servant. Xiaoqin was a little surprised. Xin Shanhe is looking for me? Didn't he just see me? Therefore Xiaoqin looked at the person at the door suspiciously. Is he Xin Shanhe's servant? Could it be that Xin Jingquan or Tangita found someone to trick me out and then harm me? However, after thinking about it, Xiaoqin did not mind it. His current strength was already considered at the peak of cultivators. If Xin Jingquan and Tangita wanted to harm him, he could just kill them. That way no one would know. Now, asked Xiaoqin. Yes, Old Master said that if you have time you can go over. He has something to tell you, said the Xin family disciple. All right, please lead the way, Xiaoqin said straightforwardly. The Xin family disciple nodded and walked in front. Xiaoqin followed behind him. In the end, they really came to the previous villa again, which surprised Xiaoqin. After entering the villa, they went upstairs smoothly. They didn't expect to be besieged by Xin Jingquan and Tangita. They stopped at the door of Xin Shanhe's room, where Xiaoqin had just left. The Xin family disciple knocked on the door and Xin Shanhe's tired voice came from inside. Is it White Fox, my friend? Please come in. Mr. White Fox, please. I won't go in. The Xin family disciple made a gesture and said. Xiaoqin pushed the door and saw Xin Shanhe lying on the bed alone. When he saw Xiaoqin come in, he forced a smile and said, White Fox, do whatever you want. Okay. Xiaoqin sat casually in front of Xin Shanhe's bed and asked curiously, Grandpa Xin, why did you ask me to come here again? I believe that you should have seen my problem during the day, but you didn't say it. Xin Shanhe said, my problem actually, I know. It's incurable. That's not necessarily true, Grandpa Xin. I will think of a way. Xiaoqin didn't quite understand the meaning of Xin Shanhe's words, but he still comforted him. You don't have to persuade me. In fact, from your expression I can see that you really know medicine. Xin Shanhe said, it's just that my body is not sick. Xiaoqin was slightly stunned, but it seemed that although Xin Shanhe was sick, he was not stupid. His mind was still clear. He nodded and said, yes, Grandpa Xin, you are poisoned. The poison is in my injured part and it can't be resolved. Xin Shanhe sighed and said, if I leave, I don't know what will become of the Xin family. I don't want to find out who poisoned me. It's just a few people, so Grandpa Xin knows, then I won't say more. Xiaoqin was very surprised that Xin Shanhe seemed to know everything. The prosperity of the Xin family relies on unity, but the second generation of the Xin family is like this. I saw it before, so I didn't choose the successor of the young master from them. I planned to choose directly from the third generation. Xin Shanhe said, but I didn't expect that I would be tricked. I really can't rest assured where the Xin family will go in the future. Xiaoqin nodded. Big families also had their sorrows. Families like the Xiao family were already like this, not to mention a real martial arts family like the Shin family. So the only way the Shin family can maintain its current status is to rely on marriage. Otherwise, with Zheng Quan's ability, the Shin family will soon decline. Shin Shanha said, "He can't be the master." Xiao Qin frowned slightly and didn't understand what Shin Shanha meant. Actually, among the children of the third generation, I am more optimistic about Jing Mao. Shin Shanha continued, but I am not optimistic about Zheng Hao. He is a mercenary. I didn't like him since I was a child, but it doesn't affect my love for Jing Mao. So, if Jing Mao wants to be the master, then Jing Xuan's marriage will become particularly important. White Fox, do you understand what I mean? You mean, let me leave Jing Xian and let her marry Tanjita's Tan family? Asked Xiao Qin. Tanjita? No. Shin Shanha smiled and shook his head. I'm talking about you, White Fox. Me? Xiao Qin thought that Shin Shanha also wanted to persuade him to separate from Shin Jingxian, but it didn't seem to be the case. I heard about Songning. I've been paying attention to Jing Mao. Shin Shanha said, you are young but you are already a demonic cultivator at the 8th stage of inner strength. Your future is limitless, so I am very relieved that you are with Jingxian. But can the demonic star sect fully support Jing Mao's ascension? Xiao Qin was really surprised this time. He didn't expect Shin Shanha to know so much even though he was lying in bed. Judging from the attitude of the Shin family today, these people didn't know who he was at all. But it was no wonder. Shin Jinghao and Shin Jingmao were both marginal figures in the Shin family. Who would pay attention to them? Not to mention paying attention to White Fox. White Fox's name was only famous in Songning. If the Shin family didn't care about him, then it was normal that they didn't know. However, Shin Shanha even knew that he was at the 8th stage of inner strength. Obviously he paid special attention to him. One had to know that the 8th stage of inner strength was just broken through when he fought against Ling Youxiang. It was only revealed at the end. I don't think the demonic star sect will. Xiao Qin told the truth. He knew his own family well. He had nothing to do with the demonic star sect, so he couldn't lie to Shin Shanha. That's true. How can a sect participate in the battle of the Zhen Wu family? Shin Shanha was a little disappointed. The 8th stage of inner strength is still a little weak. Zheng Quan is at the 8th stage of inner strength. You guys are only tied. You can't suppress him. If second uncle also supports Zheng Quan, then Jing Mao will have no chance at all. That second uncle doesn't care about family affairs, right? Why would he support Uncle Jingshuan's side? Xiao Qin asked. Although he doesn't care about these things, he doesn't want the Shin family to have endless infighting. So, letting Zheng Quan take over is the simplest and easiest way. If it's someone else, it won't be legitimate and it'll take a lot of effort. So, of course if I leave, Zheng Quan will definitely take over. Shin Shanha sighed. I guess this unfilial son is aware of this, so he dares to act recklessly. Tenmuyo? What a shitty pharmacist. He gave me some bad medicine. Is he trying to make me die? Xiao Qin coughed twice and said, I'll try my best. As long as you agree to let Jing Mao take over, then I'll have the confidence to stir up trouble in the Shin family. You want to use force? Shin Shanha was slightly stunned. I can't say force, but I won't let Shin Jingquan get what he wants. Xiao Qin said, I just don't know how strong the second uncle is. Chapter 459. In fact, I don't know. Before the retreat, I was at the peak of the 10th level. Shin Shanha said. Is that so? Xiao Qin was shocked. If he was at the peak of the 10th level, after he consolidated his strength, there was still a possibility of fighting. However, if he broke through to the martial master realm, then there was really nothing he could do. You'd better not think about changing my uncle's mind because he is a stubborn person. Shin Shanha said, he is very self-centered. It is difficult for others to change what he has decided. Okay, I will think of a way. Xiao Qin nodded. By the way, if you are cured, then the matters of the Shin family will not be decided by others, right? In theory, yes, but if Shin Jingxuan's ascension is a foregone conclusion, it will be useless even if I am cured. Shin Shanha sighed. Besides, it is impossible for me to be cured. My poison cannot be cured. No one can cure it. In fact, in addition to Tan Mue, I have also looked for other pharmacists. Don't think that all these years I am the head of the Shin family for nothing. I also have my own connections. Understood, then I will go back first. Xiao Qin said. If the Devil Star sect does not intervene, then, you should go back with Jingxian and leave the Shin family. Don't get involved in these things. It is not good for you. Shin Shanha said, "You can set up your own sect in Songning or take them to the Devil Star sect. In short, don't stay in Lan City. Tan Muwei is narrow-minded. If Jingxian does not marry Tanjita, then you will be in danger." Hehe, it is not certain who will be in danger. Xiao Qin blinked his eyes and left Shin Shanha's room. Xiao Qin left Shin Shanha's villa and returned to his room. He felt a little emotional. It seemed that Shin Shanha understood very well. It was just that the situation of the Shin family was too complicated for him to control. If he jumped out to question Shin Jingquan, then he would probably die faster. Shin Jingquan would definitely kill him. It could be seen that Shin Shanha didn't want to die just like that. He was worried about the Shin family. He knew about the White Fox's background and wanted to use the Devil Star sect's influence to stabilize the Shin family. He said that he was optimistic about Shin Jingmao, but he might not really be optimistic about Shin Jingmao. Perhaps at the moment, Shin Jingmao was the only one who did not have ulterior motives. After all, Shin Jingmao's strength was clear for all to see. He was at level 5 inner force, which wasn't low at all. Although he would be considered a young talent in an ordinary family, he was nothing in the martial arts clan. The medicinal herbs cooked in the electric clay pot were ready. Xiao Qin directly consumed the medicinal herbs and began to train, consolidating his 8th level Qi refinement realm strength. The night passed uneventfully. Early the next morning, Xiao Qin let out a long breath. The peak of the 8th level Qi refinement realm. Perhaps it was because of the change of medicinal herbs. The first medicinal herb was especially effective. Or perhaps there was still some demonic energy left in his body. In short, Xiao Qin consolidated his strength in one fell swoop and climbed to the peak of the 8th level Qi refinement realm, which surprised him. Wasn't it too fast? It was a little unreal. Moreover, he didn't feel any pain when he took the medicine this time. It was obviously the effect of the devil stump fruit. It was really a good thing. "Elder Heaven Ancestor, am I very powerful?" Xiao Qin said with some arrogance. "I realize that I'm really a genius. I've never seen such a shameless person. A while ago your strength stagnated and you sighed. Have you forgotten about it so quickly?" Elder Heaven Ancestor snorted coldly. Hee. Xiao Qin naturally didn't forget about it. It was just that things had been going smoothly recently, which made him feel a little smug again. As soon as he finished cultivating, the doorbell rang. Xiao Qin walked over and opened the door. He was a little surprised to see Tanjita. "White Fox, how about I take you out for a walk?" Tanjita said. "The scenery of Lan City is very beautiful. A small place like Songning can't compare." "You take me out? Are you trying to persuade me to separate from Shin Jingxian, or find a place to beat me up?" Xiao Qin asked. "You." Tanjita was obviously stunned by Xiao Qin's straightforwardness. His face turned a little red. That was indeed what he was thinking. On the surface he was asking Xiao Qin to take a walk, but in reality he was asking him to give up on Shin Jingxian. If he didn't comply, he would beat him up and let him know how powerful he was. However, he didn't expect that Xiao Qin would expose him on the spot. Tanjita's face turned a little ugly and he was in a dilemma. Hee, let's go. Xiao Qin smiled. Even if Tanjita didn't look for him, he still wanted to end the matter here. Shin Shanha had made it clear to him, so even if Xiao Qin intervened in the affairs of the Shin family, it wouldn't be considered a busybody. Great. Tanjita was stunned and said, "Now, I'm a little impressed by your courage. You're a man. However, you should understand that sometimes courage is useless. The cultivation world pays attention to strength, not courage. No matter how much courage you have, it's useless if you don't have the strength." "You mean you really want to beat me up?" Xiao Qin looked at Tanjita with a puzzled face. "No way. I was joking before." Tanjita was a little speechless. Damn, it turned out that this guy was joking. He thought he was really brave, but it turned out that he didn't dare to do anything to him. This made Tanjita feel like he was punching cotton. No matter how arrogant you were, it was useless if the other party didn't know about it. "No, I'm treating you to some fun," Tanjita said. "I knew it. No matter what, I'm a guest of the Shin family. You're here to accompany me on behalf of the Shin family, so you can't neglect me." Xiao Qin said, "By the way, I heard that Lan City is rich in antiques. Why don't you show me around and give me two?" "Antiques?" Tanjita's expression became a little strange. This white fox was really ignorant and fearless. How dare he ask for something from me? He was a little annoyed. "I'm giving it to you. Do you dare to take it back?" "Why wouldn't I dare to take something from you, Brother Jita?" Xiao Qin smiled and said, "Aren't you taking me to go shopping? It's fine if we're just going to some scenic area. We're two men, so it's easy for people to misunderstand." Then what do you mean? Tanjita was a little mad. Nothing. I just won't go if you don't give me an antique. Xiao Chen stopped after he finished speaking. Tanjita really wanted to beat up Xiao Chen on the spot. What kind of person was he? Not only did he go back on his words, but he was also shameless enough to ask for something from someone else. However, Tanjita changed his mind. He was going to teach Xiao Chen a lesson anyway, so it was fine to let him have some fun for the time being. Thus he said, "All right, what do you want? I'll give it to you." You should have said so earlier. I know that your father is the chief apothecary and your family is filthy rich. Xiao Chen patted Tanjita's shoulder. Tanjita sneered in his heart. How dare you pat my shoulder? You're so disrespectful. You're going to cry later. The two of them went all the way out of the Shin family's villa area. In the parking lot of the Shin family's courtyard, a BMW X6M was parked. Tanjita opened the door and Xiao Chen got in the car. Tanjita's mouth flashed a trace of a sneer. The car started and drove all the way to the city's most high-end antique market. On the way, Tanjita didn't even bother to talk to Xiao Chen. He originally wanted to persuade Xiao Chen not to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, but this guy looked very arrogant. To deal with such a person, it was to make him afraid. If he was beaten into submission, then everything would be solved. After parking the car in the parking lot in front of the antique market, Tanjita got off the car with Xiao Chen. As soon as they got off, two people came over. Young Master Tan, what a coincidence. How come you have time to visit the antique market? Who is this beside you? Why is he wearing a mask? Is this the clown you hired? Let me introduce you. This is White Fox. I heard that he is Jingshuan's boyfriend. I brought him here to take a look. Before Tanjita could finish, the leader of the two people wearing a black trench coat reached out and pushed Xiao Chen. Young Master Tan, who is this? Why is he so arrogant? Isn't Jingxian the sister-in-law? How did he become her boyfriend? The man in black was called Jing Qinghu, one of the 4 young masters of Lan City. The 4 young masters of Lan City, as the name suggested, were made up of 4 people. The eldest was naturally Shin Jingtian from the Shin family, the second was Tanjita, the third was the man in black Zheng Qinghu, whose father was the vice president of the Lan City Warrior Guild, and the fourth was Ma Jinhan, whose father was the second shopkeeper of Lan City's Warrior Market. These people all had deep backgrounds. It could be said that in the martial arts world of Lan City, these 4 people could call the wind and summon the rain. Today, Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan were secretly invited by Tanjita to help. The eldest Shin Jingtian would not be able to make an appearance, but it did not matter to the two of them. That's right. I've heard of people pretending to be pretentious before, but I've never heard of pretending to be a fox and wearing a mask. Do you think you're Spider-Man? Ma Jinhan sneered sarcastically. However, Xiao Chen did not pay attention to him. He only flashed away from Zheng Qinghu's hand and said to Tanjita, "Little Tan, do you know these idiots? Is there something wrong with their brains?" Tanjita was a little stunned. Who in Lan City would dare to scold them? However, Xiao Chen had scolded them and even asked him if he knew these 2 idiots. How was he supposed to answer? Did he know them or not? It didn't seem right. Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan also widened their eyes. They had received a text message from Tanjita today. He was here to teach a country bumpkin a lesson and humiliate him. He wanted to let him know the martial arts world and what a true master was. Therefore, they had always felt that this was a very relaxing and pleasant thing to do. They had done this kind of thing countless times, and their opponents were all scared witless and kowtowed to admit their mistakes. However, this person actually dared to scold them. Originally, according to the plan, Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan would each humiliate Xiao Chen with a sentence and continuously raise Tanjita's background. Then Xiao Chen would retreat in the face of difficulties. If he persisted in going about things the wrong way, then they would show their strength and directly intimidate this country bumpkin from a small place like Songning. However, to their surprise, before they could even say 2.5 sentences, the country bumpkin in front of them turned the tables and directly insulted them as idiots. Chapter 460. Who are you scolding? Zheng Qinghu asked with a gloomy expression. Of course I'm scolding you. Don't you think that your actions just now were no different from that of an idiot? Xiao Chen replied calmly, Is there any point in acting? Your acting wasn't that good. Are you a clown hired by a monkey? Who are you calling a monkey? Tanjita jumped out with a whoosh and pointed at White Fox as if his tail had been stepped on. Xiao Chen was a little speechless. This was a confession without being pressed. He had thought that Tanjita, the mastermind, would have a higher IQ. He didn't expect that he would be even lower than Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping. However, it wasn't surprising at times. These young masters had always been high and mighty in Lan City. Stepping on others didn't require IQ at all. It was a one-sided crushing of strength. What I meant was that Qinghu and Jinhan are my friends. White Fox, it's not good to scold him like that, right? Tanjita knew that he had misspoken and hurriedly explained. Xiaoqun looked at Tanjita and said earnestly, "Actually, I think it's better if you don't play with these two anymore. There's something wrong with their intellect. When they were young they weren't fully developed. If you play with them your IQ will easily be dragged down. Do you know why Xin Jingxian doesn't like you? It's because she doesn't like idiots." "Kid, who are you scolding when you talk about idiots every time you open your mouth? I'll give you a chance now. Get the F***CK out of Lan City immediately and you can still keep your life. Otherwise, I'm not afraid of threatening you. If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave tonight." Zheng Qinghu sneered with a sinister expression. "When that time comes, no one will be able to protect you. Even if you hide in the Shin family, it won't work." "I can't leave. Why don't you demonstrate for me?" Xiaoqun scratched his head and said, "If I can't leave then I can't leave. It just so happens that I want to stay for a while. However, you mean that there won't be any cars at night, so I can only disguise myself as a wheel and get the F***CK out of Lan City? Is that what you mean?" Quack. Zheng Qinghu was stunned and so was Ma Jinhan. Both of them looked at Xiaoqun in astonishment. Previously they thought that Xiaoqun was scolding them when he said to demonstrate, but after listening to the latter part of his words, they realized that the one with the IQ problem was the kid in front of them. "Brat, I'll tell you the truth. If you don't get lost, we'll kill you," Zheng Qinghu said. "But I don't know how to do it," Xiaoqun said. "Then there's no other way, just wait for your death." Ma Jinhan snorted coldly. "Why don't you two give me a demonstration?" As soon as Xiaoqun's voice fell, he made his move without any warning. To be exact, he made a kick. Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan were both kicked in the crotch by Xiaoqun. The two of them screamed and rolled on the ground while covering their crotches. Then Xiaoqun calmly turned his head and looked at Tanjita as if nothing had happened. "Little Tan, your two friends are really nice people. Show me how to do it." Tanjita's face turned a little green. He knew Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan's strength. They were both stage 6 inner force martial artists, one level lower than him. However, they were already the cream of the crop among the younger generation. They were actually kicked by Xiaoqun to the point where they were rolling on the ground. Although it was a sneak attack, it was still fast enough. "That White Fox." Tanjita pulled Xiaoqun to the side and whispered, "Oh no, you've offended them. You won't have a good life. Why don't you apologize to them and I'll mediate between them. After that, you can leave Lan City immediately. Maybe they'll let you go. I don't have any other skills, but I know how to offend people. I'll forget about the apology. Thank you for your kindness. Shall we go buy some antiques?" Xiaoqun glanced at Tanjita and said directly. "Huh." Tanjita was a little stunned. He didn't know if this Xiaoqun was careless or careless. He was already in such a state, yet he wasn't nervous at all. He could not help but say in a low voice, of the two of them, that Zheng Qinghu is the son of the Warrior Guild's Vice President Zheng, and that Ma Jinhan is the son of shopkeeper Ma of the Warriors Market. "Do you think you will have a good ending after offending them? Didn't you say you were going to buy antiques for me? Are you still going to buy them?" Xiaoqun asked a question that didn't answer it. "This." Tanjita glanced at Zheng Qinghu from the corner of his eyes. To be honest, he didn't expect things to turn out this way. This Xiaoqun was able to kick Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan to such a state, so his strength was at least on par with his own. It seemed that he had underestimated his enemy and didn't take him seriously. Zheng Qinghu winked at Tanjita. The three of them usually played together and had a tacit understanding of each other. With just one look, Tanjita knew that Zheng Qinghu meant to calm down Xiaoqun first, while he went to get reinforcements. Thinking of this, Tanjita nodded and said, "Well, since the White Fox is interested, let's go in and have a look." Tanjita couldn't figure out how this White Fox's brain worked. Should he say that he was courageous, or was there something wrong with his brain? Didn't he know fear? Or was he a student and a rogue cultivator who simply didn't know the cruelty of the martial arts world? Xiaoqun naturally saw Tanjita and Zheng Qinghu exchanging glances. He guessed that Zheng Qinghu might have gone to get reinforcements, but Xiaoqun didn't mind. Since he had Xin Shanha's token, allowing him to intervene in the affairs of the Shen family, the first thing he had to do now was to establish his prestige. Strength was not something that could be spoken of, but displayed. Although he could tell the Shin family to let them investigate how awesome he was at the Songning Righteous and Demonic Summit, what was the use of that? What he heard and what he saw were two different concepts. Therefore Xiaoqin didn't mind Tangita making things bigger. The bigger it was, the more opportunities he would have. This was like a dose hitting a pillow. Watching Xiaoqin and Tangita enter the antique market, Zheng Qinghu got up from the ground. Xiaoqin's kick was not light, and his balls were almost broken. Although he was a martial artist, he didn't practice the iron ball skill. Covering his lower body, he limped to the car on the side of the road. Ma Jinhan also stumbled behind and got in the car. Brother Hu, this kid's strength is not weak. No wonder he is so pretentious. Ma Jinhan said, with just the two of us we can't take revenge. Let's find someone. I have the same intention. However, I can contact a group of martial artists to help, but the cost. Zheng Qinghu's father was the vice president of Lan City's warrior guild. Naturally, he knew some experts. However, to invite these people to help, reputation alone was not enough. He had to spend money. Money is not a problem. Brother Hu, don't worry. We don't have anything else, but our family is rich. Ma Jinhan's father was the vice manager of the warriors market. Of course, how much could a vice manager earn? However, with the authority of this position, he had earned a lot of dirty money. Ma Jinhan was also full of confidence. Zheng Qinghu nodded. In fact, he also had a little money. However, he was working for Tangita. Even if he spent the money, he might not be able to get it back. Naturally, he wouldn't be a fool. However, Ma Jinhan was different. His family was rich, so he didn't care about this. He took out his phone from his pocket. After thinking for a while, he posted some targeted missions on the Warriors Guild's platform. In other words, only the designated people could receive the mission. It's done. 6 experts have been called. We can handle this lineup, right? Don't let the higher-ups know. Zheng Qinghu was a little nervous after calling the people. After all, the president of the Warriors Guild and his father were not of one mind. If they took the opportunity to make a fuss, it would be troublesome. It's okay. This time we are standing up for Brother Kita. When the time comes, Brother Kita will take the blame for us. Ma Jinhan said indifferently, 6 is not too little? What level are they and how much money? 6 is not too little? 2 7 stage, 2 peak 7 stage, 1 8 stage and even 1 peak 8 stage. Zheng Qinghu said, just now we were hot-headed and picked ruthless people. Now, don't you think we are making a mountain out of a molehill? Sure, kill him. Do it well. Brother Kita will not treat us badly. Ma Jinhan said. Although these two people's families were also very powerful, Tangita's father was an apothecary. He could often help them get some rare medicinal liquids and pills. These were things that even their father would have a hard time getting. That's right. These people asked for a total of 10 million. Zheng Qinghu said. No problem. Ma Jinhan readily agreed. One could imagine how much dirty money his father had gotten from his position as the vice shopkeeper. Tangita looked at the message on his phone and a cold smile appeared on his face. 6 martial artists and one of them was at the peak 8 stage. This time the white fox was dead. Xiaoqin's 6 senses were sharp. With a slight glance, he saw the contents of Tangita's message. He sneered in his heart and pointed at an ancient jade. Little Tan, this ancient jade is not bad. Buy it for me. Ah? Tangita was immersed in the excitement of a group of masters coming and directly crushing the white fox. When he suddenly heard the white fox's words, he was a little impatient. A person who was about to die still wanted to buy things. Buy my ass. So he said, what ancient jade? It doesn't look good. Forget it. Let's walk around. You're not buying it for me? Xiaoqin asked. It's not that I don't want to buy it. It's useless and not good looking. Let's look at other things. Tangita said. Oh, then forget it. I see that you don't want to buy it. I'm going back to the Shin family. You walk around by yourself. It's boring. Xiaoqin said and turned to leave. He didn't give Tangita any chance to speak. His speed made Tangita speechless. Hey, wait. How could Tangita let Xiaoqin go? Zheng Qinghu had already found a thug. If Xiaoqin left, who would he fight? When the thug came, not only would he have to pay, but he also couldn't teach the white fox a lesson. This person had already returned to the Shin family. He couldn't possibly rush into the Shin family and beat them up, right? That wasn't realistic. Is there anything else? Xiaoqin asked. Chapter 461. I'll buy it, I'll buy it. Tangita was a little helpless. In order to stabilize Xiaoqin, he could only agree. You should have said it earlier. Xiao Chen returned and pointed to the ancient jade. This is it. Boss, how much is this ancient jade? Tanjita glanced at the ancient jade that Xiao Chen pointed out. There was nothing special about it. It wouldn't be too expensive, so he asked directly. 5 million. The boss stretched out 5 fingers and quoted directly. What? 5 million? Boss, are you mistaken? Such an ordinary ancient jade costs 5 million? Tanjita was stunned and said, are you trying to cheat me because I don't know the industry? At most 100,000. Are you selling it? This is an ancient jade unearthed from a famous ancient dynasty tomb. I have an expert certificate here. Don't make trouble if you don't have money. The boss said disdainfully. Tanjita didn't expect a piece of broken jade to be so expensive. His face was a little ugly. This white fox's vision was really unique. He just randomly picked a real antique. Before, he didn't want to spend more than 100,000, but now it suddenly became 5 million. Are you buying it or not? If you don't buy it, I'll leave. Xiao Chen asked with some impatience. Originally, Tanjita wanted to waste some time with the boss. Anyway, it didn't matter if the boss sold it or not. As long as he successfully waited for those masters, then everything would be fine. He didn't expect that just when he had this idea, Xiao Chen impatiently urged him. It made him a little unhappy in his heart, but he couldn't show it on the surface. He could only say, buy it, don't bargain. However, the boss seemed to cooperate with Xiao Chen and said directly, this shop guarantees authenticity. No bargaining. If you don't want to buy it, don't stay here. Tanjita was bitter. He hesitated and asked tentatively, then, after I buy it, if I find a problem when I go home, can I return it? We are a trustworthy shop. Don't talk about problems. If there are no problems, you can also return it. Free return within 7 days, provided that the item is not damaged or replaced. The boss said directly. All right, then I'll buy it. Swipe my card. After hearing this, Tanjita's heart calmed down. It would be easy to get a refund. He would buy it first, and when the white fox was killed or injured, he would get the ancient jade back. This way he wouldn't lose a single cent. From the looks of it, it was equivalent to the deposit of 5 million yuan. All right. The owner asked a worker to help Tanjita swipe his card. Then he quickly and carefully wrapped up the ancient jade and handed it to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen put it away with satisfaction. Tanjita thought that if they were to fight later, he might break this ancient jade. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to return it. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but say, White Fox, this ancient jade, how about I hold it for you? Keep it in your pocket and don't lose it. It's quite expensive. Oh, no need. I can't lose it. Xiao Chen said directly. Tanjita felt somewhat gloomy. He could only tell Zheng Qinghu later to search for the ancient jade on Xiao Chen's body before he beat him up when he found someone to come. After secretly sending a message to Zheng Qinghu, Tanjita was relieved. Watching Xiao Chen continue to wander in the antique market, he felt more at ease. Humans die for wealth as birds die for food. Didn't he just want me to spend some money for him? But it was also good. If he lost his life for some benefits that he couldn't get, he probably wouldn't have a place to explain himself. However, what made Tanjita really puzzled was that this white fox seemed to have a little problem with his IQ. His style of doing things was like a primary school student. How could such a person get the favor of Xin Jingxian? He was greedy, arrogant, and had no sense of crisis. It was reasonable to say that Xin Jingxian shouldn't like such a person. Could it be that this guy had some unknown merits? But no matter how he looked, he couldn't find anything. He even wondered if he was a fake boyfriend that Xin Jingxian hired at the last minute. But after thinking about it, it was impossible. First of all, the Xin family didn't urge Xin Jingxian to get engaged. There was no reason for her to hire a boyfriend in a hurry. It was even more impossible to say that it was for him. Before Xin Jingxian came back, she didn't know that he could come to her to propose marriage. There was no need for her to find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. Following behind Xiao Chen walked and stopped from time to time. However, to his disappointment, apart from the spirit chi fluctuations in the piece of ancient jade, there was nothing else. It seemed that this kind of spiritual jade couldn't be bought easily. It could only be found by chance. It was estimated that for a long time, the antique market in Lan City wouldn't see spiritual jade again. However, as Xiao Chen walked in front, he kept feeling that someone was following him. But he didn't pay much attention to it. In his opinion, it should be Zheng Qinghu or Ma Jinhan following him so that they could find someone to deal with him. After walking one round, they left the antique market. Xiao Chen didn't have anything he wanted, so he couldn't be bothered to buy it. This made Tanjita heave a sigh of relief. He only had about 6 million in his bank card. Now that he had spent 5 million, the remaining 1 million was basically not enough for him to do anything. That's him. Kill him. As soon as they left the antique market, Zheng Qinghu's sharp eyes spotted Xiao Chen. He pointed angrily and ordered the people standing behind him with a fierce expression. All 6 of them were top-notch martialists registered in the Lan City Martialists Guild. Lan City was not a small city. Even though it could not be compared to some developed cities with a large number of martialists, it could be said to be filled with experts in its surroundings. These people all knew each other, but they were a little puzzled. Why did they have to gang up on a masked man? But as long as someone was paying, they didn't care. The warrior at the peak of Stage 8 Inner Force spoke first. Let's go together. This is the downtown area. Let's end this quickly. After we kill him, drag him to the car. After the warrior at the peak of Stage 8 Inner Force finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed forward. The others nodded and surrounded Xiao Chen. Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan stood at the side with a sneer. Xiao Chen's kick had hurt them so much. It was finally time for revenge. Qinghu, Jinhan, what are you doing? Why did you find people to gang up on White Fox? Is this a misunderstanding? In order to clear himself of suspicion, Tangita said, White Fox, why don't you kneel and apologize to them? I'll mediate and you can leave Lan City. How about that? Of course, he wasn't doing this because he was afraid of trouble, but because he didn't want Shen Jingxian to know that he had killed Xiao Chen. As for Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan, although they were the scapegoats, it wasn't a big deal given their backgrounds. Tangita could just compensate them with some cultivation elixirs afterwards. The peak of the 8th layer punched towards Xiao Chen's forehead. The martial technique that he practiced was a powerful fist technique. Normally speaking, a single punch would be enough to split the opponent's brain. Even if it was a martial artist of the same level as him, he would be able to kill them. However, what surprised him was that just as his punch was about to hit Xiao Chen, his vision blurred and he suddenly lost his target. Xiao Chen had disappeared without any warning, leaving nothing in front of him. When he realized that something was wrong and wanted to look for Xiao Chen quickly made a move. He used a dark flame palm, but he didn't use his full strength. He only used 80% of his strength, and it sent the peak 8th layer male flying like he was swatting a fly. The warrior didn't even have time to react when he felt his body suddenly fly up like a cannonball. He flew through the air and finally fell into a pile of garbage near the antique market with a bang, letting out a blood-curdling scream. The garbage pile was stinky, flies were flying, and maggots were swarming. The warrior at the peak of Stage 8 Inner Force wanted to get up, but all his bones felt like they were broken. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't stand up again. A stench hit his nose, causing him to faint directly. This sudden turn of events stunned everyone present. Originally, when Zheng Qinghu saw the man at the peak of the 8th floor make his move, he wanted to shout and search his body. However, before he could shout, the man at the peak of the 8th floor was already dead. On the other side, Xiao Chen didn't stay idle. After hitting the warrior at the peak of Stage 8 Inner Force, Xiao Chen directly walked toward the 5 warriors. 2 of the Stage 7 Inner Force warriors were grabbed by his hair and slammed into each other's faces. With a muffled "pa" sound, the 2 of them fainted on the ground. They were bleeding from all 7 orifices, and it was unknown whether they were still alive or not. Without stopping, Xiao Chen turned around and grabbed the 2 martial artists at the peak of Stage 7 Inner Force. He wanted to do the same thing to them. However, the 2 of them were already on guard. After being grabbed by Xiao Chen, they quickly twisted their bodies, trying to break free. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered to get entangled with them. He simply kicked each of them in the chest. Because he didn't use any martial arts, Xiao Chen didn't hold back this time. But even without martial arts, his attack was equivalent to the peak of Stage 9 Inner Force. The 2 of them were directly kicked 8 feet away. Their heads fell to the ground with a dong sound, and a large pool of blood flowed out. It was unknown whether they were still alive or not. With a single move, Xiao Chen took care of 5 martial artists in a row. It happened in the blink of an eye. The Stage 8 Inner Energy martial artist was terrified. He no longer wanted to gang up on Xiao Chen like he did at the beginning. Instead, his expression changed and he turned to run. A dignified Stage 8 Inner Force warrior was actually scared away. Zheng Qinghu was dumbfounded. Ma Jinhan was also dumbfounded. Tangita was even more shocked and speechless. Originally, he thought that there was something wrong with Xiao Chen's brain and IQ. But now it seemed that it wasn't the case at all. With his strength, he didn't care about these conspiracies. In the face of absolute strength, everything was empty talk. Previously, Tangita thought that his strength was similar to Xiao Chen's. Now, it seemed that he was lucky that he didn't make a move. Otherwise he would be miserable. Xiaoqin didn't chase after them. They were just martial artists who helped him. If they ran away, so be it. He directly looked at Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan and said with a sneer, "You two only found these few pieces of trash." Chapter 462. You, don't mess around, I am the son of the Lan City Warrior Guild's vice president. Zheng Qinghu's face turned pale when he saw Xiaoqin looking at him. That's right, don't go overboard. I am the son of the Lan City Warrior Market's second shopkeeper. If you touch us, I can guarantee that you won't be able to leave Lan City. Is that so? Xiaoqin said coldly. Have you ever thought that you were messing around? Did you not go overboard? Did you go overboard? I didn't do anything to you and only taught you a simple lesson. I didn't expect you to be so daring as to find people to gang up on me. Tell me, do you think I will let you go? We are different from them. It is impossible that you do not know who we are, unless you want to form a death grudge with us. Zheng Qinghu roared in a threatening manner. I have already contacted our elders. When they arrive, it will be the day of your death. If you obediently admit your mistake and leave Lan City, we will not pursue this matter. Ma Jinhan suddenly felt confident. Oh. In fact, Xiaoqin did not intend to do anything to Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan. After all, their identities were different. Xiaoqin wanted to establish his authority and not offend all the forces in Lan City. He originally wanted to scare them, but he did not expect them to find people again. Xiaoqin was very surprised that they would look for their parents when they could not win. He thought that the world of ordinary people was like this, but he did not expect the world of martial arts to be the same. However, this was not what Xiaoqin wanted to see. Although he was not afraid of trouble, he did not want to offend the people of the Warrior Guild. If these people appeared and collectively chased him away, Xiaoqin would be in a difficult position. However, since he had already done it, Xiaoqin could only take it one step at a time. This was not the time to give in, so Xiaoqin said coldly, "Do as you wish. White Fox, I think it's better to forget about this matter. Apologize and I'll mediate. Otherwise, when the people from the Warrior Guild arrive and they issue a bounty, all the warriors will come to deal with you. No matter how powerful you are, you won't be able to walk out of Lan City alive." Tanjita said to Xiaoqin. In fact, Tanjita also knew that Xiaoqin had only beaten up Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan. Even if their father came, he would at most scare Xiaoqin and teach him a lesson. As for issuing a bounty, that was absolutely impossible. Although it was only released on Lan City's local platform, if anyone spread the news to the headquarters of the Warrior Guild or the Hong Consortium, they would not be able to get away with it. Of course, they might be stupid. However, in Tanjita's opinion, they were not idiots. So, it was better to scare Xiaoqin and get him to scram quickly. Speaking of the devil, he arrived. The first to arrive was Ma Jinhan's father, Ma Yuqian. As his name suggested, he was indeed very rich. Soon after, another middle-aged man arrived. This person was Zheng Qinghu's father, Zheng Zhiba. Both of them were experts, but they did not make a move on Xiaoqin. Ma Yuqian glanced at Zheng Zhiba, waiting for him to make a decision. In fact, in Zheng Zhiba's heart, he already knew what happened. Previously, when Zheng Qinghu was looking for people, he understood that Zheng Qinghu was standing up for Tanjita, but he didn't interfere. After all, Tan Muyo was also someone that he and Ma Yuqian wanted to curry favor with. The three of them could be said to be a small interest group. Tan Muyo was the leader, Zheng Zhiba was in charge of clearing up the connections, Ma Yuqian was in charge of purchasing medicinal ingredients, and Tan Muyo was in charge of refining medicine. Refining medicine would cost money. With a few of them working together, they could swallow hundreds of millions of dirty money every year. What was the most valuable thing in the warrior's market? It was not the medicinal ingredients, but the refined medicinal liquids and pills. Many of these things had a sky-high price. Tan Muyo used the medicinal ingredients that were normally lost to refine medicinal liquids and pills and sold them through Zheng Zhiba's channels to obtain huge profits. In this, Tan Muyo was an indispensable link. Therefore, among the three of them, he had the final say and received the most money. As for Ma Yuqian, who was in charge of purchasing medicinal ingredients in Lan City's warriors' market, he was also an indispensable link. This was because even if Tan Muyo wanted to take on private jobs and refine his own medicinal pills and liquids, he would not be able to buy enough raw materials. Therefore, Ma Yuqian's benefits came second. Although it was second, Ma Yuqian was the richest. This was because from the purchasing process he could earn a lot of commissions. Moreover, he could also get a lot of the pills and liquids. Zheng Jiba, in fact, took the least, and he also had to build up connections to get people to buy pills and medicinal liquids from him in private. However, this was a job that any martial artist with a bit of status and connections could do, so Zheng Jiba did not complain. However, outside, Zheng Jiba and Ma Yuqian were together, and Zheng Jiba was still the leader. After all, Zheng Jiba had a lot of connections and was the vice president of the Warriors Guild. His status was slightly higher than Ma Yuqian's. Who are you? I now suspect that you are a wanted criminal of the Warriors Guild. You are wearing a mask and do not show your true face. I will request the Warriors Guild's law enforcement hall to verify your identity. This Zheng Jiba was obviously not a reckless person. He spoke and did things in a way that no one could refute. Now, I will have to trouble you to return to the Warriors Guild with us. Before we confirm your true identity, you are temporarily under our control. Of course, you can also choose to escape. That means that you have a guilty conscience. I will request the Warriors Guild to put you on the national wanted list. This person was smarter than Qin Huanling. After all, he was the vice president of the Warriors Guild in a big city. He was different from the one in Songning City. His speech was completely official. If Xiao Qin refused to comply, it would mean that there was something wrong with him. At that time he would put him on the wanted list. Even if the wanted list was wrong, it would have nothing to do with him. He could totally say that this person wore a mask and refused to cooperate with the investigation. However, Xiao Qin could not take off his mask. He did not want his identity to be exposed so quickly. For a moment he was in a dilemma. If he followed Zheng Jiba to the Warriors Guild, who knew what would happen when he reached his territory? But if he did not go, Zheng Jiba would probably put him on the wanted list. Xiao Qin could not help but feel a sense of hostility. He wanted to kill Zheng Jiba with his palm, but he held back in the end. But, what should he do now? A smile flashed across Tanjita's face. He looked coldly at Xiao Qin and secretly admired Zheng Jiba. With just a few words he had pushed Xiao Qin to a point where he did not know what to do. In his opinion, it was already good enough to expel Xiao Qin from Lan City. But now it would be too easy for him if he left. Now he could not even leave even if he wanted to. His view and vision were still not good enough. Look at how awesome Zheng Jiba was. He had used his identity and power to the fullest. For a vice president of the Warriors Guild to be able to do this, it was already pretty awesome. Zheng Qinghu and Ma Jinhan also stood at the side and looked at Xiao Qin with a smug smile. Wasn't he acting cool just now? Is it okay now? You've put yourself in the trap of acting cool. Sai, White Fox, I told you just now that you could leave after apologizing. But now, you see, the Warriors Guild has intervened. I can't do anything about it. Tanjita sighed and pretended to be helpless as he said to Xiao Qin, I advise you to obediently follow Vice President Zheng. Otherwise it will not be fun if you become a wanted criminal. Alright, Tanjita. I'm sure you know better than me what happened today. You don't have to pretend anymore. What's the use of pretending now that things have come to this? Xiao Qin narrowed his eyes and looked at Tanjita. Tanjita felt a little awkward. Indeed, he was the one who arranged everything today. But now Xiao Qin was right. What was the point of hiding now? There were only two paths in front of Xiao Qin. One was to obediently follow Zheng Jiba back. But if he went back he probably wouldn't be able to come out. In Zheng Jiba's territory, it was too easy to kill someone. The other was to escape. With his strength he could probably escape. But after he escaped, he would have to bear the consequences of never having a day of peace. He would become a wanted criminal. Even if he wore a mask it would be useless. As long as the people from the Warriors Guild's law enforcement hall appeared and verified with the Shin family, Shin Jingxian and Shin Jinghao wouldn't dare to hide Xiao Qin's true identity. When that time came it would be easy to find him. That's right, White Fox. I admit that I'm the one who wants to target you. The reason is very simple. You don't know how to appreciate favors. Tanjita admitted it. He took a step forward and looked at Xiao Qin coldly. You dare to fight with me over the woman I like? Don't you know that in the martial arts circle of Lan City, no one has ever dared to defy my will? Originally I didn't want to kill you. As long as you leave obediently, not only will I not do anything to you, but I will also give you some cultivation herbs. But since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, I have no other choice. It's good that you admit it. Xiao Qin took a deep breath and calculated in his heart. If there was no other way he could only go to the Warriors Guild first. On the way there he would think of a way to contact Hongzhu or Song Huawu and ask them to protect him. Based on their status, either of them would be able to settle this matter. Tanjita, it seems like your father isn't a good person either. You're just a man who's about to die. You don't have to worry about this. You'd better worry about yourself. Tanjita sneered. The one wearing the mask, what are you waiting for? Come with us. Zheng Jiba said indifferently. Of course you can also choose to escape. Xiao Qian knew that he had to make a decision. However, just as Xiao Qian was hesitating and everyone else present thought that Xiao Qian was finished, a figure appeared beside Xiao Qian without any warning. Chapter 463. This old man knows this person. Go do what you need to do. This was an old man who looked to be in his 50s. Of course, it was possible that he was even older. Because martial artists had an extended lifespan, their looks did not age that easily. Therefore, before knowing his strength, it was impossible to determine his true age. However, the feeling that this person gave Xiao Qian was indeed very strong. This was because even Xiao Qian had not sensed his appearance. It was simply too strange without any warning. Seeing the sudden appearance of this old man, everyone's eyes narrowed and they couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Zheng Jiba's expression was a bit ugly, but he had to force a smile and said, "Yes. Then we'll be leaving first." There were no superfluous words. There was only agreement. The others did not even say anything. They only bowed and quickly left with Zheng Jiba. Even wealthy Ma, who had an equally prominent status, was avoiding eye contact with Zheng Jiba. As for Tanjita, Zheng Qinghu, and Ma Jinhan, they followed Zheng Jiba and the others and quickly left. They were afraid that if they were too slow, they would provoke the old man's anger. Xiao Qian was very surprised by this person's appearance. He didn't know him and he was sure that he had never seen him before. But why would he help him out of trouble? Obviously this person was a big shot. Even Zheng Jiba was afraid of him. Just one sentence from him was enough to make the arrogant Zheng Jiba give up. This person either had a high status, was powerful, or was both. "Senior, thank you for helping me out." Although he was confused, no matter what, this person had helped Xiao Qian. Out of courtesy, Xiao Qian had to thank him. "I'm sorry, but I didn't help you out for nothing. Come with me." The old man looked at Xiao Qian and said indifferently. A strong domineering aura was released and instantly enveloped Xiao Qian's body, making Xiao Qian feel very suppressed. Expert, he was definitely an expert. Xiao Qian's heart trembled, but he still nodded and followed. If such a person wanted to deal with him, there was nothing he could do. Besides, he had helped him out of trouble, so he shouldn't have any malicious intent towards him. On the side of the antique market, there was a small street. There was basically no one there. The houses on both sides of the street had been demolished. It was planned to build a big antique market, but the construction hadn't started yet. Xiao Qian watched as the old man casually found a stone staircase in the ruins and sat down. Xiao Qian followed and sat down on the rubble opposite the old man. He looked at the old man and said, feeling it was strange, "Senior, you were looking for me? Show me the stone you bought in the antique market just now," the old man said straightforwardly. Xiao Qian was slightly taken aback. Thoughts raced through his mind, but in the end he still took out the ancient jade and handed it to the old man before him. Xiao Qian was very puzzled. Did this person save him just to take a look at the ancient jade that he bought? The old man took the ancient jade and didn't say anything. He just held it in his hand and looked at it. After a while he said, "Why did you buy this jade?" "I have a hobby of collecting antiques. Moreover, Tanjita paid for it, so I casually cheated him," Xiao Qian said with a bitter smile. "Collecting antiques? Casually cheated?" The old man frowned and his sharp eyes swept over Xiao Qian's face. Then he said, "You're lying. Did you buy this jade casually?" "Yes." "Is there anything wrong with this jade?" Xiao Qian asked. "This is a spiritual jade. I think you know it. Don't tell me you don't know." The old man sneered. "There was only one spiritual jade in the antique market. After you bought it, I went to all the shops that sold jade and found that there was only one. And you're telling me that you bought it casually? This?" Xiao Qian was shocked. He didn't expect this old man to know about spiritual jade. Moreover, he knew how to distinguish spiritual jade. This was very rare among warriors. Most warriors did not even know what a spiritual jade was, and what was the difference between it and ordinary jade. Otherwise, Li Shanying and Qing Mingqiang would not have been able to take out the spiritual jade so easily. "It doesn't matter if you don't say it. You can't hide it even if you want to." The old man said, "I will force you to say it. If you don't, I will send you back to the Warriors Guild. If you tell me, I can guarantee your safety when you leave Lan City. Zheng Jiba and the others won't make things difficult for you." "All right." Xiao Qian had no choice but to say, I am a devil cultivator. I found that this kind of jade is good for my cultivation, so I collected it everywhere. The old man was slightly surprised. He then frowned and said, just for cultivation? As far as I know, although this thing is good for cultivation, it's very weak. Yes, but I want to improve my strength. Even if it's just a little useful, I will collect it, Xiao Qin said. Is that so? The old man suddenly moved. Without warning, he attacked Xiao Qin. He casually threw the jade pendant at Xiao Qin. Then, while Xiao Qin subconsciously stretched out his hand to catch the jade pendant, he directly punched at Xiao Qin's face. Xiao Qin was shocked and quickly took 2 steps back. A huge aura hit him in the face. Xiao Qin's heart trembled. This was an expert, a top expert. Xiao Qin actually couldn't see through his strength. In the past, even if it was a martial artist with a higher level than him, Xiao Qin could still see through their strength. But this time, Xiao Qin only felt that this person was very strong, even stronger than old man Shishan, who had perfected the peak of stage 10 inner force. Xiao Qin didn't dare to be negligent. He secretly circulated the mantra but did not attack. Instead, he kept dodging because he didn't have a chance to attack. The old man's speed was too fast. Xiao Qin was overwhelmed. Often, just as Xiao Qin dodged the previous move, the next move would follow. Back and forth like this, the old man had already used more than 10 moves. Not bad? The old man's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but exclaim. He felt that there must be a secret in this spiritual jade. At this moment, he had roughly judged Xiao Qin's strength. Although Xiao Qin didn't attack and he couldn't get an accurate level, Xiao Qin should be around the peak of stage 9 to stage 10 inner force devil cultivator. At such a young age, he mingled with Tanjita and the others. Moreover, he was Xin Jingshuan's boyfriend. He was probably not very old. He should be around 20 years old. It was a little unbelievable that he could have such a cultivation at this age. Not to mention the true martial arts families, even though sects were rare. Therefore, he felt that all of this should be the credit of the spiritual jade. Otherwise, why did Xiao Qin only buy the spiritual jade? And he spent so much money on it? Xiao Qin kept dodging and retreating. Finally, when he retreated to a corner, he had nowhere to retreat. He had no choice but to set up an illusion to make the old man think that he had escaped and Xiao Qin hadn't. However, this illusion seemed to have no effect on the old man. After a short pause, the old man still slammed his palm towards Xiao Qin's chest. Boom! Xiao Qin was slammed against the wall. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, for some unknown reason, the old man didn't use his full strength. After the successful blow, he didn't continue attacking. Instead, he retreated to the side and sat down. He said calmly, I'll give you some time to adjust your breathing. Think about it carefully. Do you want to tell me the truth? Xiao Qin was stunned. He immediately understood. This old man was obviously giving him a show of strength. He was warning him that if he didn't tell the truth, he would be ruthless. Although the old man showed mercy, Xiao Qin still felt very uncomfortable. He had tried his best and used his body's speed to the limit. However, in the end, he still couldn't escape the last blow. Even the illusion was useless. Also, don't even think about using illusions. This old man is also a devil cultivator. Although this old man has to admit that your illusions are very clever and almost made this old man see wrongly, this old man didn't feel your aura of escape. Although you disappeared, this old man felt that you haven't left. Just as I expected. The old man warned, now that I have locked on to your aura, you better think carefully before you speak. Xiao Qin took a deep breath and seized the time to heal his injuries. However, the old man didn't know what kind of strength he used. When the demonic energy entered Xiao Qin's body, it was like maggots in a tarsal bone. It was running amok in Xiao Qin's body. This was different from the other demonic energy. This demonic energy didn't seem to be suppressed. It was like the cold energy in his body. It made Xiao Qin feel very uncomfortable. It was like thousands of ants gnawing on his bones, causing trouble in his meridians. Looking at Xiao Qin's somewhat uncomfortable expression, the old man said calmly, Oh right, I forgot to tell you. You have been hit by this old man's unique skill. If this old man doesn't help you resolve it, you will soon die from the pain of itching in your meridians. So, whether you want to say it or not, think carefully. After saying that, the old man no longer paid attention to Xiao Qin. He closed his eyes as if he was taking a nap. The chaotic demonic energy made Xiao Qin's healing speed a lot slower. This was because Xiao Qin had to use a portion of his essence to suppress the demonic energy. Only the remaining half of his essence could be used to heal. Fortunately, Xiao Qin's current strength level had increased. His healing speed was also much faster than before. Otherwise, who knew how slow it would be? After thinking about it, Xiao Qin decisively held the spirit jade in his hand and began to absorb and dissolve it. Even if he was discovered by the old man, Xiao Qin had no choice but to do so. The secret of the spiritual jade was related to the fact that he was a cultivator. He had no way of explaining it, so he could only tell the truth. However, Xiao Qin could not reveal it. Chapter 464. Then he had to recover from his injuries as soon as possible and refine the demon qi in his body. Only then would he have a chance to escape from the old man's clutches. But after he escaped, he would probably be wanted by the Lan City Warriors Guild again. What a headache. As time passed, the old man seemed to be very patient. He did not care about the time Xiao Qin needed to recover. It seemed that this was the only way to give Xiao Qin psychological pressure and force Xiao Qin to tell the truth. However, this gave Xiao Qin time to recover. The old man probably did not expect Xiao Qin's self-healing ability to be so strong. If it was an ordinary cultivator, they would only be able to regulate their breathing and suppress their injuries. It was absolutely impossible for them to fully recover. It was probably because of this that the old man ignored Xiao Qin. Finally, Xiao Qin's internal injuries were completely healed. However, he did not stop and continued to dissolve the demon qi in his body. The demon qi that the old man had injected into his body was thick and violent. It was even more ferocious than Leng Youxiang's. However, once it was dissolved and turned into yuan qi, the increase in Xiao Qin's strength was very significant. With the help of the spiritual jade, Xiao Qin felt that his strength was constantly increasing. He had a faint feeling that he was about to break through the barrier. But how was this possible? A few days ago, Xiao Qin had just broken through the barrier of the peak of the 7th level of the qi refining stage and stepped into the 8th level. Even though he was now at the peak of the 8th level, he still did not dare to believe that he could immediately enter the 9th level. However, the truth was right in front of him. Xiao Qin felt that after the demonic aura was dissolved, the primordial qi was colliding with his barrier again and again with the help of the spirit jade. The originally indestructible barrier actually had a tiny crack. Seeing this, Xiao Qin was both surprised and happy. If he could successfully break through this time, he would definitely have the strength to fight against this old man. Thinking of this, Xiao Qin could not help but speed up the circulation of the mantra, speeding up the transformation of the demon qi. The transformation of demonic energy was a very painful process. The faster the process, the more painful it was. The demonic energy was not absorbed by the meridians. Instead, it was piled up together. This was a very dangerous and uncomfortable situation. However, this was exactly the situation that Xiao Qin wanted. The little bits of vital qi accumulated into a mickle, continuously battering against the barrier, one after another. Boom! Finally, after the spiritual jade shattered into powder, Xiao Qin successfully broke through the barrier and advanced to the 9th level of the refinement stage. Phew! Xiao Qin heaved a sigh of relief and looked at the old man not far away. Not bad, you do have some skills. The old man saw that Xiao Qin raised his head and looked at him. At this moment, he opened his eyes as if he could see through Xiao Qin's movements at any time. He said slowly, being able to suppress my demon qi in such a short period of time, you really do have some skills. Of course, the old man only thought that Xiao Qin suppressed the demon qi. He would not believe that Xiao Qin could refine the demon qi and use it for his own use. If he could not do it, how could Xiao Qin do it? We have no enmity between us, and I have already told you what you asked me. This spiritual jade is really for my cultivation, but you don't believe me. Xiao Qin said with a bitter smile. You better think carefully before you speak. Your life is in my hands now. I can kill you at any time. The old man's face was a little ugly. He did not expect that Xiao Qin would dare to not tell the truth at this time. I'm very clear about this. Xiao Qin nodded and said, but I really did not lie to you. Good, in that case I will fulfill your wish. A sharp glint flashed in the old man's eyes as he stared at Xiao Qin and suddenly made his move. Xiao Qin did not dodge at this moment. He faced the blade head-on and rushed towards the old man. He secretly circulated the mantra in his heart and activated the 10th form of the dark flame palm that he had never used before. The old man only wanted to teach Xiao Qin a lesson, so he did not use his full strength. However, Xiao Qin went all out. In fact, when the old man saw that Xiao Qin actually dared to clash head-on with him, a disdainful smile appeared on his face. Boom, boom, two loud sounds rang out. Xiao Qin was hit by the old man's fist, and the old man was hit by Xiao Qin's palm. In the next moment, both of them flew out at the same time. Xiao Chen spat out a mouthful of blood, but at the same time the old man also spat out blood. He looked at Xiao Chen, who flew in the distance, in horror. He was a little surprised and a little confused. The power of this palm made him feel that Xiao Chen had the strength of a stage 10 inner force master. Of course, this was actually an illusion. Xiao Chen's palm was at most comparable to a stage 10 inner force master. It was not even at the peak, let alone the stage 10 inner force master. After all, Xiao Chen had just broken through and his strength had not stabilized yet. It was purely a stretch for him to activate the 10th form. It was just that he was not prepared, so the power was infinitely amplified. In his opinion, only a master of stage 10 inner force master could beat him up like this. Xiao Chen quickly healed his internal injuries, but the old man obviously could not. He could only suppress his own injuries. The two of them stared at each other at the same time. Their hearts were secretly vigilant, but neither of them moved. Both of them were healing, so it was only a matter of who could move faster. Obviously this person was Xiao Chen. Although the old man was stronger, he might not be able to suppress his injuries as well as Xiao Chen's healing. Xiao Chen stood up and walked toward the old man step by step. The old man's eyes were filled with incomparable fear. He had never thought that a half-step martial master like him would be beaten by a martial artist. How is this possible? How are you fine? You took 2 of my attacks in a row. How is it possible that you are completely fine? The old man looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief. Judging from his state, he was not injured at all. Old man, I already said that we have no enmity between us. I told you everything you asked, but why don't you believe me? Xiao Chen was just threatening him. He did not really want to take this opportunity to kill the old man. Otherwise, the hatred would be too inexplicable. He did not even know who the other party was. Are you really using it for cultivation? The old man asked. Yes, I was at the peak of stage 9 internal force. You can see that, right? Xiao Chen asked. That's right. The old man nodded. This was the truth. He was still wondering how Xiao Chen broke through in the blink of an eye. That's why I almost broke through. Then, I just used the spiritual jade that I just bought to complete the breakthrough. Now, I'm at stage 10 internal force. Xiao Chen said, although this thing is expensive and the effect is slow, why wouldn't I buy it when others are paying for it? Moreover, I can't find other better materials for cultivation, so I can only use this. As Xiao Chen spoke, he reached into his pocket and took out the pile of broken jade powder. He sprinkled it in front of the old man. Although there was no energy in it, there were some parts that were not completely broken. It could still be vaguely seen that this was the spiritual jade from before. Looking at the broken jade in front of him, the old man had no choice but to believe what Xiao Chen said. He was a little speechless. Is that really the case? Then you really have money to burn. With this money you can buy a lot of other cultivation resources. In his opinion, Xiao Chen was only a step away from breaking through. That was why he used the spiritual jade to help him break through. Because he had also used spiritual jade before, the effect was very weak. It was basically negligible. I already said that others are paying for it. Xiao Chen shrugged. And I'm used to it. You have any? No, you're not weak. How about we cooperate? If you agree, you can get a lot of spiritual jade. The old man suddenly spoke. Even his attitude towards Xiao Chen had changed from the haughty attitude from before to a more equal one. Stage 10 internal force was equivalent to the great circle of stage 10 internal force. It was enough to hurt a half-step martial master like him. An expert of this level was similar to him. Although he was a half-step martial master, he had not become a martial master. It could only be said that he had touched the threshold and was slightly stronger than an ordinary great circle of stage 10 internal force. Cooperate? What kind of cooperation? Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. The old man did not continue. Instead, he looked at White Fox carefully. After a while, he suddenly said, White Fox, I'm Clay. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Chen almost spat when he heard that. Clayton? Wasn't that the one who issued the mission to look for him to explore the ancient ruins? Why was he here? Clayton was also a little embarrassed. He did not expect the person in front of him to be White Fox. He had felt that White Fox's name was very familiar, but he did not think too much about it. After all, White Fox could not be from Lan City. It was from Songning. Moreover, he did not remember the name White Fox very clearly. He had only added him as a friend on the Warrior Guild's app. He was a little puzzled that White Fox wanted so many spiritual jade, but it was not convenient to ask on the app. He had used spiritual jade before, but the effect was not very good. After he came out of seclusion, he had planned to buy a piece of spiritual jade at the antique market to see what was so special about it. However, when he went in he found one. When he asked about the price, it was too expensive. He felt that it was not worth it, so he decided to go to another shop. In the end, he saw Xiao Chen and Tanjita coming in and buying the spiritual jade. He followed them out curiously and saw what had happened. He felt that there was something strange about Xiao Chen, so he brought him here to ask. He did not expect this person to be the white fox who wanted to explore the ancient ruins with them. No wonder he was wearing a fox mask. You want the spirit jades from the primordial relic for cultivation? Clayton asked. Yes, what else can I use it for? It's not like I can eat it, Xiao Chen said. I just feel that it's safer to use spiritual jade for cultivation. Many a little makes a mickle. Alright, you have the money. Do whatever you want. Clayton was speechless, but he did not ask further. After all, White Fox's strength was similar to his. If he asked too much and attacked him, he would be in trouble. He had not recovered from his injuries yet. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.